They were once inseparable siblings, yet when they met again, they were like strangers. Brother Cheon Gwang had been on the battlefield for 10 years. The only way home was to survive. His sister and family were his last pillar of support. But on the battlefield, fortunes could change in an instant. A figure appeared, unstoppable wherever he went. Cheon Gwang's camp was completely routed. The newcomer was an enemy expert. He slowly climbed up the hillside, introducing himself as the eldest son of the Thousand Hands martial city. He didn't want to harm these slave soldiers forced onto the battlefield. He hoped everyone would retreat quickly. Everyone had heard of his reputation and knew he had reached mythical levels in martial arts. But at that moment, someone slowly stood up behind him. Before he could react, his chest was pierced through. To return home, Cheon Gwang had to take the enemy commander's head, just as his opponent tried to counterattack. Cheon Gwang knocked him down the hillside. At that moment, someone shouted that Cheon Gwang had defeated the enemy general. Hearing this, the others rushed past the two men. For the reward, they charged into the city. Cheon Gwang had survived once again. In the Hanggu sect army barracks, Tae-ho praised Cheon Gwang for ambushing for 8 days, saying this task was perfect for him. Cheon Gwang asked about his reward. He had collected 20 martial artist heads. Tae-ho had promised him freedom and should keep his word. Tae-ho stepped on Cheon Gwang. A mere battle slave daring to ask for freedom? Obtaining those heads wasn't because of your skill, but because of my strategy. Then, he ordered his men to lock Cheon Gwang in the dungeon. In the dungeon, Cheon Gwang kept telling an old man about his past. 15 years ago, he was kidnapped and sold as a battle slave. Every day he thought of his family. That bastard had promised him freedom. But the old man ignored Cheon Gwang's ramblings. He was busy manipulating his hair. When their bodies touched, the old man seemed to gain some power. His hair shot toward the distant key. Then, his hair brought the key back. Cheon Gwang wondered how someone so skilled could be locked up here. But the old man remained silent. He guessed the old man couldn't move his legs, so he had to create some chaos. Soon after, the main hall caught fire. Cheon Gwang carried the old man and escaped in the confusion. But before they got far, 3 arrows struck the old man. The pursuers had arrived. Cheon Gwang hoped they would let him go since they were teammates. But just then, someone attacked from the side. He grabbed the old man and crashed into that person, then kicked him away. But by now, several people had appeared behind him. He pulled out the arrows from the old man's body, quickly took down one person, but another's dagger had already stabbed him. He immediately pulled out the dagger and counterattacked, only to be pinned against a tree by another. He could only use all his strength to choke the attacker. The battle ended in an instant. He got up and looked at the old man in the distance, thanking him for helping him survive. And so, Cheon Gwang returned to his hometown. But what awaited him was a grave. His father, while searching for him, had encountered mountain bandits. The once harmonious family had dispersed. His mother had vanished. His father had met a tragic end. Cheon Gwang cried, asking about his sister's whereabouts. Inside Moksan Fortress, people came and went. Cheon Gwang learned that his sister had been brought here. He searched everywhere for her but found no trace. Just then, he saw a girl surrounded by a crowd. It was his sister Myung-wol. He hurried forward, calling out, "Sister!" But seeing him, she was first startled, then immediately showed a look of disgust, and led her group away. Cheon Gwang didn't understand why his sister acted this way. He had to find out why she didn't recognize him, but the guard captain Ijung stopped him. Then, Ijung ordered her subordinates to drive Cheon Gwang away. The commotion also caught someone else's attention. Meanwhile, the Hanggu sect had extinguished the fire. They couldn't understand how Cheon Gwang had escaped. The furious Tae-ho ordered his men to capture Cheon Gwang alive. Though the damage was minimal, he wanted to make him suffer a fate worse than death. Elsewhere, the guards took Cheon Gwang to an alley. They were discussing Myung-wol's beauty and figure. After all, even they wanted to drink with her. Cheon Gwang couldn't bear hearing them insulting his sister. He could no longer tolerate it. He wouldn't allow these people to slander his sister. Seeing him resist, they drew their swords and attacked Cheon Gwang. This conflict was observed by someone nearby. Seeing Cheon Gwang's agility, he already had a plan. At this point, Cheon Gwang had been caught by the guards. He had no strength to fight back, but something appeared in the sky, landing and exploding. Everyone's eyes were blinded by the smoke. A mysterious person appeared beside Cheon Gwang, taking him away from there. Later, they arrived at the riverside. The youth told him not to rub his eyes, and told Cheon Gwang his name was Manji. If he wanted to enter Cheongyongjong, he could help. He knew of a dog hole that could reach the Jibang dormitory, but he had no interest in women. In the early morning, inside Cheongyongjong, 2 people were discussing the day's events. That man actually knew Myung-wol's name. Myung-wol felt he must be her brother. She said she had given up hope of living before. Now that she was finally treated as a human, a beggar suddenly appeared claiming to be her family. The brother who abandoned her as a child and disappeared, he might as well be dead. Their conversation was overheard by Cheon Gwang under the tree. So his sister had been living in hell every day. Hearing his sister's grievances, he sank into thought. At this moment, Manji appeared, interrupting his thoughts. But Cheon Gwang ignored him, still listening to his sister's words. Seeing this, Manji asked him to check his bundle. He needed to use the toilet, but actually, he climbed onto the roof. he came to steal the girl's money. But he needed a scapegoat. Having seen Cheon Gwang's skills earlier that day, he could give him enough time to escape. This was a great opportunity. At this moment, Cheon Gwang was still reflecting on his sister's words. Indeed, he couldn't do anything for his sister now. Just then, Shangyeonjong erupted into chaos. Everyone was shouting about a thief, and the bundle beside him caught fire. Immediately, a flame shot up into the sky, illuminating the entire courtyard. Cheon Gwang knew it was trouble and fled quickly. But behind him, a figure was already pursuing with a sword. Ijung demanded he return the ornaments. Cheon Gwang didn't know what she was talking about. Guard Captain Ijung didn't listen to Cheon Gwang's explanation, continuously attacking him. Cheon Gwang pulled a vine to knock her down, and said he didn't want to fight a weak woman. But these words deeply angered the woman. Her sword headed straight for Cheon Gwang's forehead. Cheon Gwang's forehead was bleeding heavily. His opponent had used a killing move. But Cheon Gwang had never seen a female martial artist on the battlefield. He never thought he would encounter one today. He had no way to fight back. Soon he was seriously injured. He hid behind a tree, frantically thinking of a strategy. But Ijung wouldn't give him a chance. With one sword swing, the sword energy actually curved, heading straight for Cheon Gwang. Before he could react, his abdomen was hit. Captain Ijung came to him asking about the stolen goods. If he didn't confess, she would end his life. But Cheon Gwang knelt and begged for mercy, because he only needed her to lower her guard for a moment. Seeing this, Ijung reluctantly put away her weapon and told him to confess quickly. But unexpectedly, in that moment, Cheon Gwang had already kicked away her weapon and pinned Ijung to the ground. The captain then attacked Cheon Gwang's wounds. Like this, they grappled with each other and rolled down a cliff. When Ijung opened her eyes again, Cheon Gwang was already unconscious beside her. By now, her subordinates had found them. They brought Cheon Gwang back to Cheongyungjong. They questioned him about the stolen ornaments, but Cheon Gwang knew nothing about any ornaments. He indicated that a kid called Manji must have stolen them, not him. Cheon Gwang wanted to say he came to see his sister, but remembering his sister's words, he held back. Myung-wol, watching her brother's expression, seemed to understand something. She requested from the head madam to let her handle this matter. The head madam didn't want to get involved, so she let Myung-wol handle it. Then she ordered her subordinates to first lock Cheon Gwang in the warehouse. Myung-wol's companion didn't believe her brother was a criminal, but Myung-wol told her not to say more. If her relationship with Cheon Gwang became known, it wouldn't be good. Then they found Captain Ijung, asking about the situation. The captain said it might not have been Cheon Gwang who stole. She said this because Cheon Gwang had actually protected her during the fall. But she didn't tell anyone about this. She only said that when she found Cheon Gwang, there was nothing in the forest. After hearing this, Myung-wol thought for a moment, then asked Captain Ijung to protect them shopping tomorrow and to investigate the neighboring village. After the two left, the captain went to find Cheon Gwang. She ordered her subordinates to treat him and said tomorrow they would search together. But when they were treating him, they discovered Cheon Gwang's body was covered in blade scars. They speculated he must be a battle slave who escaped from the battlefield, not knowing what cruel enslavement Cheon Gwang had endured. The next day, Myung-wol asked everyone to draw portraits of the thief, then go to the neighboring village to look for pawn shops and stolen goods. Cheon Gwang watched his sister arranging everything meticulously. He never imagined his sister would have such a side. Then, several people began asking around with the portraits, while Myung-wol shopped in the distance. Her beauty attracted many gazes. She not only spent lavishly, but bought whatever she liked. In the distance, someone was watching them. When the sun was about to set, someone appeared from the shadows and blocked their way. Soon, they were surrounded. But Myung-wol wasn't afraid at all, because her guards had already appeared behind the men. Thus, the men knelt before her. Myung-wol knew greedy people would have connections. She told them to find the person in the drawing. Otherwise, Captain Ijung would deal with them. Not long ago on the main street, Hanggu sect people were looking for Cheon Gwang. Coincidentally, they met Manji. Manji played a joke on them and left. While he was feeling proud, he didn't know someone had already revealed his hideout. It was somewhere in a dense forest, but they didn't know exactly where. Then the henchmen led several people to the described location, but they didn't find the person he mentioned. At this time, Myung-wol noticed something in the distance. She walked straight in, soon saw a house. On the other side, Cheon Gwang and his group found nothing. Cheon Gwang suggested going to the tattoo barracks. There, he smelled something familiar, like the gunpowder Manji used. When they arrived again, Manji actually appeared there. In the chaotic house, Manji was the first to escape, but Cheon Gwang was already closely following. Manji dodged the attack, seeing it was Cheon Gwang. He never thought the person who took the blame for him would come to catch him. He could only throw a bomb to escape in the confusion. But unexpectedly, Cheon Gwang followed closely. This scene was just seen by the Hanggu sect people. Seeing it was Cheon Gwang, they also gave chase. Thus the two had already run deep into the forest. Seeing Cheon Gwang about to catch up, Manji threw another bomb, but it was caught by Cheon Gwang, who threw it back. Smoke rose in the forest. Cheon Gwang had pinned Manji to the ground. At this time, the guards also came through the smoke. Before they could steady themselves, they were hit by a force and thrown back. The attacker was Hanggu-sek's Magi Nim. He had found this place through the old woman from Cheon Gwang's hometown and said he would cripple Cheon Gwang and take him back. Seeing this, Cheon Gwang told the guards to escape. The enemy was after him, but seeing their colleagues injured, they stood in front. However, against Magi Nim, they had no chance to fight back. While he was gloating, Cheon Gwang had already reached above his head, but was knocked away, and mocked that his poison seed title was nothing. Just as everyone wanted to immobilize Cheon Gwang, several sword shadows came from the distance to rescue him. It was guard Captain Ajong. Her sword went straight for Magi Nim and actually broke his weapon. Seeing this, Magi Nim threw away his weapon and used his ultimate technique. Its power shook the forest. On the other side, Myung-wol heard the noise and came. The thugs, seeing Myung-wol's beauty, had evil intentions, but they forgot Cheon Gwang was still nearby. After taking down one person, he untied himself. They actually dared to have designs on his sister. Cheon Gwang had killing intent now. On the other side, the battle continued. The captain seized the opponent's weakness and landed a hit, but he broke her sword directly, and her attack didn't seem to hurt him at all. With a broken sword, the captain had no weapon. But her fighting spirit hadn't diminished. In the distance, a figure walked through the forest. After a full meal, he had become unusually strong. The earlier loud noise had also caught his attention, and he found that the person he was looking for was nearby. On the other side, the captain was still fighting hard with her broken blade, but the effect was minimal. She used all kinds of techniques, but was still knocked to the ground by Magi Nim. Cheon Gwang was also under attack from 3 people, but with his agility, he kept moving around them. Myung-wol could only watch her brother from a distance. This was the first time she had seen such a fight. It was more brutal than she had imagined. She had to do something to help her brother. Just as the enemies focused on Cheon Gwang, a stone knocked one of them unconscious. It was Myung-wol who had sneaked up, but another turned his attention to her. Fortunately, Cheon Gwang came forward in time. He kept attacking the man because he had endangered his sister's safety. Suddenly, the captain flew over and knocked Cheon Gwang away. At this time, Magi Nim slowly approached from the distance. Cheon Gwang asked about the captain's injuries. The captain told him not to worry, she came to find her sword. Just as Magi Nim was about to use his ultimate technique, a man appeared behind him. Magi Nim instantly turned and attacked the man. The man asked if he was a disciple of Gal. Magi Nim was shocked. This person dared to call their master's name, but the man ignored him, talking to himself. He told Magi Nim to send a message back. His master Hanyang was still alive and well, and he wanted to show Magi Nim something. As light flashed, a destructive force covered the forest. Magi Nim and others were directly blown away by the aftermath. This was the correct way to use the palm release technique. Then, he turned to Cheon Gwang, walking straight toward him. Cheon Gwang didn't know why the other knew his name. Hanyang asked him, after escaping, "Did you find your family?" Cheon Gwang seemed to remember him. The old man in the prison. Cheon Gwang thought he had died, but at this moment, Hanyang found his pants had a problem. He didn't control his strength well while showing off. Then, he prepared to find some pants to wear. He told Cheon Gwang not to worry, he would come back to find him later. When Cheon Gwang came to his senses, Manji had disappeared. Captain Ijung told Cheon Gwang they already knew Manji's hideout. At this time, Manji had returned home. There were many children here. Seeing him return, the children said they were hungry. All this was seen by Cheon Gwang and Myung-wol. It turned out these were all orphans and elderly left by the war. Because they couldn't beg for food, Manji became a thief. The elderly hoped they would spare Manji, but Manji had still stolen things. If forgiven, he would continue to steal. And they weren't saints, nor were they from wealthy families. Since the ornaments had been sold, they could only take Manji back to Seongyeonjong first. A few days later, on the night of the Seongyeonjong banquet, Myung-wol reported the situation to the head madam. Hearing this, the head madam said without the ornaments, those government guests would certainly find fault. Myung-wol said she had thought of a solution. Then, the officials arrived. Waiting for them was a beautiful scene. Beauties of all kinds dancing. Cheon Gwang watched with anger. He could only seethe silently. At some point, Hanyang appeared beside him, asking Cheon Gwang if he was waiting for him. Actually, Hanyang's chi was sealed by his disciple's betrayal. But by chance, he used Cheon Gwang to open his energy channels and restored his bloodline by eating wild beasts. And only he could do these things. But Cheon Gwang couldn't listen to any of this. Looking at his sister in the distance, he was grinding his teeth in anger. On the officials' way home, Cheon Gwang blocked their path. The guards came forward telling Cheon Gwang to leave immediately, but he stared at the official. Seeing this, the guards had to draw their swords. With one move, they knocked Cheon Gwang down. Though he was agile, when facing real martial artists head-on, he didn't stand a chance. Just as they were about to end his life, a terrifying aura emanated from behind Cheon Gwang. There was a god or demon full of killing intent. The guard instantly felt chills and chose to flee, leaving Cheon Gwang, who didn't know what happened. At this time, Hanyang appeared above him, praising Cheon Gwang, saying it was amazing he had survived until today. Cheon Gwang asked Hanyang if he could make him stronger, until he could protect his sister. The next day in the Hanggu sect, Magi Nim had already relayed Hanyang's words to the leader. Bangdan scolded them for putting someone in that prison. Taeho wanted to redeem himself by dealing with the opponent, But the leader told them their primary task was to attack the city. Even if they brought people to find Hanyang, it would be futile sacrifice. After bidding farewell to the leader, Maji Nim apologized to Taeho. Taeho swore to capture Cheon Gwang and Hanyang. He wanted to rectify this mistake and not let his senior outdo him at this time. The position of the next leader must be his. At this time, Hanyang was replenishing his energy. Cheon Gwang was still asking about teaching him martial arts, but the old man said he had no talent for teaching. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been backstabbed by his disciple and locked in the dungeon, but he could let Cheon Gwang imitate his training beside him. But before all this, Cheon Gwang needed to accumulate internal energy and be able to see the opponent's Dantian operation. And Cheon Gwang had already overused his body, causing internal and external energy imbalance. So what they needed to do now was eat, to let the body recover before learning things. At this time, Manji asked from the side if it tasted good, then the two ordered a pile of food again. Cheon Gwang asked Manji why he was here. Manji said Myung-wol had hired him and arranged jobs for the elderly at his home. But the condition was that he would work for Myung-wol in the future, because Myung-wol was often treated inhumanely as a child. She wanted to become someone who couldn't be ignored by anyone. She wanted money, honor, and power. She wanted to become an empress. Although in others' eyes her thoughts might be a fantasy, but in this chaotic world, nothing was impossible. Manji was inspired by these words. He was willing to help Myung-wol achieve her ambition, begging Myung-wol to give orders quickly. Seeing this, Myung-wol told him to steal everything from someone's home. This was the first task. So Manji came to find Cheon Gwang for help. Cheon Gwang, hearing it was his sister's dream, agreed to help Manji. The old man also thought Myung-wol was quite ambitious, but they had a problem now. They had no money. Seeing they finished eating, the owner came to collect payment. At the same time, the two burst through the door, leaving Cheon Gwang alone to be caught by the owner. Next, Hanyang wanted to let Cheon Gwang feel what internal energy was, but they developed a strange atmosphere. But when the chi entered Cheon Gwang's body, what he felt was an unprecedented power. This kind of power was called energy adjustment. What he felt was chi that required long-term practice, now forcibly running through his body by Hanyang's power. With the increase of chi, the flesh would also become stronger. It could also slow aging, extending the prime period of the body. Now Cheon Gwang's body was still unfamiliar with chi, but forcing it a few times would master it faster than normal practice. This was also one of the basic abilities to become a martial artist. Cheon Gwang was very curious why Hanyang didn't seek revenge. But Hanyang didn't know why he should seek revenge, because he felt he wasn't a good teacher either. Mainly after living for 100 years, those things didn't mean much. After all, he was now free and enjoying himself. 10 days later, Cheon Gwang and Manji arrived at the tax official's home. Myung-wol had given them a list. They were to steal money acquired through abuse of power. Today, Myung-wol had invited the tax official to Cheongyongjong. Most of the guards followed the tax official. But thinking of his sister's situation, Cheon Gwang became furious. Just as Manji told Cheon Gwang to be quiet, Cheon Gwang had already hit the guard instantly, then choked the guard's neck. The whole movement was fluid. Manji felt Cheon Gwang seemed more agile, and they also noticed their target in the distance. Several boxes of gold and silver, even Cheon Gwang found them heavy, but he secretly began to adjust his energy. Before long, Myung-wol received the money delivered by Manji. They didn't expect Manji to complete it by himself. Manji said Cheon Gwang also helped a little. But hearing about her brother, Myung-wol suddenly changed her attitude, then left the place. Manji didn't understand what happened, but after knowing Cheon Gwang was Myung-wol's brother, he was shocked. The next day, the tax official issued a notice, looking for witnesses who stole the tax money. The head madam and Myung-wol watched from a distance. The head madam hoped it wouldn't backfire on them. Myung-wol said everything was according to plan. Then the two actually went to the official's home, saying they heard the news on the road. They came specially to see if they could help. The tax official said in 2 days he had to submit the tax to the county magistrate. Myung-wol asked if the head madam could help. Hearing this, the tax official instantly had hope. Asked if they could lend some money, the head madam said she couldn't provide that much, only some savings. Hearing this, the tax official was very grateful for their help. Actually, this was all Myung-wol's plan. Half of the stolen money would be lent to the tax official. The rest would belong to the head madam. The head madam didn't understand what Myung-wol would gain. At this time, Myung-wol hoped the tax official would provide some collateral. The tax official didn't know what was needed. Myung-wol said there was a land nearby called Pyongya. Then, they went to Pyongya. But here, a large group of people had gathered. Seeing Myung-wol and the others, they asked their purpose. Myung-wol said she had obtained management rights to this place. The other party had recognized that she was from Cheongyongjong's Jibang. They believed Myung-wol had forged documents. If she wanted them to leave, the owner should come personally. Just as Myung-wol wanted to say more, the opponent's attack had already come. The captain quickly stepped forward to block the attack. Then the opponent's leader told Myung-wol to leave if she didn't want to suffer. On the other side, Cheon Gwang caught 10 rabbits in just 10 minutes, but his master said he was far from good enough. To catch more, he needed to utilize his body's energy. Meditation alone was meaningless. Being able to mobilize qi at any time was the right way, and Cheon Gwang had indeed become stronger. But it was still difficult to maintain the flow of qi in his body. Soon, Manji came to find Cheon Gwang, telling him about Myung-wol's encounter during the day. Although Manji wanted to help, the opponent was too formidable. Hanyang then said the timing was perfect, asked Cheon Gwang if he wanted to teach those guys a lesson. Cheon Gwang even had the heart to kill them, but Hanyang told him they needed a plan. There was no complete fairness in battle. Cheon Gwang understood this best. That night, several people were having a party. At some point, Hanyang appeared beside them. He counted the number of people present. Then, a residual shadow remained in place. The remaining people in the distance were all immediately taken care of, and Hanyang appeared in the distance, holding a bun and carrying a woman. He left 15 people for Cheon Gwang. Although they were martial artists, their level wasn't high. They were good practice targets for Cheon Gwang. Hanyang reminded that the righteous tend to introduce themselves first. That was the most suitable moment for a surprise attack, but he couldn't rely entirely on luck in a fight. The most effective technique was to gather energy in one place, to inflict maximum damage in an instant. At the same time, he threw the bombs Manji had brought into the fire pot. As smoke rose, he continuously launched surprise attacks, instantly taking down several people. As the smoke dispersed, Cheon Gwang leaped into the darkness. Then he suddenly appeared in the enemy's blind spots, constantly disappearing and reappearing to attack. Due to poor visibility, they began to attack indiscriminately. Being able to attack like this, Cheon Gwang had to thank Tae-ho for his previous training. But at this time, an attack came from behind. The leader had stood up. He rebuked his chaotic teammates, and everyone immediately calmed down. Cheon Gwang knew ambush tactics would no longer work. He could only evade while counterattacking. He minimized injuries, then attacked the enemy's vital points, using every skill he had. Because he wasn't from an orthodox sect, after dealing with the minions, only the leader remained standing in the distance. But now, Cheon Gwang's condition only allowed one more all-out attack. He had to find his opponent's weakness, to use all his strength for a decisive strike, but the opponent blocked the attack, and pinned Cheon Gwang to the ground. But unexpectedly, Cheon Gwang grabbed his fist, and counterattacked again. But now, Cheon Gwang's attacks could no longer hurt the opponent. Just as Cheon Gwang could only defend, Manji appeared from behind. The leader immediately knocked Manji down. At this time, Cheon Gwang had already risen, and stuffed something into the leader's mouth. With an explosion, the leader lost consciousness. But Cheon Gwang's attacks didn't stop. He knocked the leader flying. Manji saw this and happily ran to Cheon Gwang. Cheon Gwang had survived again. At such a young age, she had seen hell. This became the girl's lifelong nightmare. To this day, Myung-wol would still wake up startled because of it. They weren't considered living beings. Now, though she was no longer a child, dealing with those land occupiers was still troublesome. Just then, Manji burst in. Hearing sounds, he thought Myung-wol was already awake. He eagerly came to tell Myung-wol they had dealt with those people, but didn't say Cheon Gwang helped, only that some wanderers solved the problem. Hearing this, Myung-wol said she wanted to rest more, asking Manji to leave first. On the other side, Hanyang hummed a tune as he walked out of the room. He had just talked with several people all night. Cheon Gwang had been waiting outside for him to come out. Hanyang was unconcerned, saying age was just a number. Then looking at the blood-covered Cheon Gwang, guessed he must have returned victorious. Cheon Gwang said the martial arts he taught didn't work. Without Manji, he would have died. Hanyang said those were just basics. Most importantly, returning alive already qualified him to enter the martial world. The next day, Myung-wol brought the captain to that piece of land. The people who had occupied it had indeed disappeared. From Manji's words, Myung-wol understood that Cheon Gwang had definitely helped her. Was he trying to imitate being a good brother? Afterward, she instructed the craftsman to proceed according to plan. The captain discovered a torn piece of clothing among the ruins, and the blood trail of only one person led straight into the forest. After arranging the work, Myung-wol took Manji to a certain place. She wanted to earn wealth that would make others envious. Then they arrived at the Moksan Fortress Trading Company. The company president Lu Zhan personally came out to greet them. Myung-wol came here to do business, but not just small-scale business. She wanted to establish a merchant group, and she also brought the membership fee and a letter of recommendation, along with the specific location of her merchant group. Soon, the news of Myung-wol establishing a merchant group spread throughout Moksan Fortress. A merchant group from the top Jibang. No one could resist being interested. This also became a topic of conversation after meals. Everyone was discussing what she would sell. Meanwhile, inside the trading company, they were also discussing this matter. Everyone thought that a trading company opened by a Jibang would eventually fail. But the president told everyone not to underestimate her strength. A girl who pours wine had actually obtained a letter of introduction from the government. And her appearance definitely wasn't that of a simple Jibang. Behind her, someone was definitely sharpening a blade. By the time they regretted it when profits were being distributed, it would be too late. So, They now needed to find an assassin to deal with Myung-wol. The next day, the captain followed the blood trail and found Cheon Gwang, but the scene before her was quite perplexing. The two of them noticed her arrival at that moment. They hoped Ah-jung wouldn't misunderstand, they were just practicing martial arts, and asked her why she came here. Ah-jung just discovered signs of fighting on their merchant group's land and followed them to check. Hearing this, Cheon Gwang asked what Myung-wol was planning to do. Ah-jung ignored him and chose to leave. Han Yang interrupted the argument between the two and suggested they have a practice match. If Cheon Gwang won, he would tell him what his sister was doing. If Cheon Gwang lost, he would grant Ah-jung one wish. Ah-jung was quite willing to teach a novice a lesson. Cheon Gwang saw that the opponent wasn't planning to draw her sword. Was she looking down on him? Before long, Cheon Gwang was knocked to the ground. Just recently, two people had come to the trading company. They wore masks and were extremely mysterious. Even the president was very polite when meeting them. The visitors began by demanding 3 boxes of gold, just as the president was about to negotiate. Countless thin threads had already surrounded them. Assassinating the top Gibang without arousing suspicion, this task was not simple. Seeing this, the president could only agree, and acknowledge that they were indeed the top assassins of Bukwan. The visitor asked the president to pay a deposit first, and claimed they were not just the best in Bukwan, but the best in Yongwon. After speaking, the two disappeared from the spot. Later, the two appeared in the mountain forest. The visitor instructed that the first mission must be done perfectly. Baekji nodded silently upon hearing this. The next day, Myung-wol came to inspect the progress of the trading company construction. From a distance, she heard people praising Cheon Gwang. Seeing his sister arrive, Cheon Gwang greeted her proactively. Myung-wol asked why Cheon Gwang was here. Han Yang said he had also heard from others. The sister asked Han Yang to convey a message to her brother. She had something to tell Cheon Gwang tonight. The conversation was also overheard by someone in the distance, who listened from afar to the time and place. In the evening, Cheon Gwang arrived as agreed, but his sister hoped that her brother would take the money and leave her. Her brother's appearance didn't make her feel secure. It only reminded her of the hellish period of her childhood. But suddenly, Cheon Gwang launched an attack at her. At this moment, the real Cheon Gwang appeared, blocking the fake Cheon Gwang's attack. With a backhand punch, he directly drove back the attacker, but his attack didn't stop. He continued to chase the enemy. After a loud noise, the enemy wasn't injured. Instead, he took out his weapon and continued to attack Myung-wol. Seeing this, Cheon Gwang quickly made a move to stop him. But the enemy had already reached his front. In an instant, he struck, causing Cheon Gwang multiple injuries. Cheon Gwang wanted to counterattack, but was directly dodged by the opponent. The opponent's speed was extremely fast. All his attacks were easily neutralized. But in terms of strength, Cheon Gwang still had the advantage. After one strike, he directly tore off the opponent's human skin mask. For an assassin, having one's face exposed was a major taboo. At this time, several guards also came upon hearing the commotion. Seeing no possibility of assassination, he could only temporarily abandon the mission, and disappeared from the spot in an instant. Afterward, Cheon Gwang asked the guards if they had any clues. The guards were also clueless, only thinking it must have been an assassin. At this point, Myung-wol urged everyone to return to Cheon-yeonjong. Cheon Gwang noticed his sister's hands were trembling constantly, so he stayed by her side. Seeing this, Myung-wol told Cheon Gwang to leave. Although he had saved her, she still didn't want to see much of Cheon Gwang. But Cheon Gwang insisted on escorting his sister back to Cheon-yeonjong. His sister must be personally protected by him. Hearing this, Myung-wol said no more. She turned and continued walking back. The next day, Manji found Han Yang, telling him that Cheon Gwang was protecting his sister and couldn't come back for now. Han Yang said Cheon Gwang hadn't yet learned how to deal with assassins. If the opponent used unusual techniques, Cheon Gwang might not be able to handle it. Meanwhile, in a cave, Baekji was being punished because his first mission failed, disgracing the Honghuang. They needed to make a new plan to help him clean up the mess. Behind the girl was endless killing. She could only hide hugging the doll her brother gave her. But the demon still discovered her existence. That face had always been her nightmare, because all the children who were caught suffered her torment, and they faced continuous trading. With the change of masters, Myung-wol had also slowly grown up, but these memories still remained vivid. The First Lady also learned about Myung-wol being targeted for assassination. She asked Captain Ah-jung to protect Myung-wol, hoping that Myung-wol would let the captain follow her in everything. Myung-wol returned to her room, with her brother and Ah-jung guarding outside. Ah-jung had heard from her grandfather that for an assassin, failing a mission was the greatest disgrace. So that assassin would definitely return. In the room, Myung-wol asked Manji to deliver a letter for her. Having survived until now, she had gone through countless life and death situations. Each time she had survived on her own, she hoped this time she could also solve it herself. Just as she was thinking, a dagger was stuck in the window. On it was a letter written by the assassin. He gave Myung-wol a chance to leave alone. Otherwise, he would kill everyone here. including her Jabang friends. After reading it, Myung-wol rushed out. She hoped Cheon Gwang wouldn't follow her. Then she headed straight for the horses outside. She mounted a horse and quickly shook off everyone, hoping to buy some more time. But the assassin had already appeared behind her. At this moment, a golden light appeared and drove back the assassin. It was Han Yang who had arrived to save Myung-wol. The moment he appeared, the assassin had already hidden his form. Seeing this, Han Yang instantly released his energy. The auras of two assassins had been detected by him. He sensed that both were masters who had opened their eyes. Especially the man's aura, he was definitely a long-missed master. At this time, Ajung had already arrived behind one person. Her attack was actually blocked by the opponent. Seeing her attack fail, Ajung directly returned to Myung-wol's side. Han Yang asked, where was his little wild dog? Ajung told him to teach Cheon Gwang properly. He was really too slow. At this moment, the man was quite surprised. Ajibang actually had so many skilled guards? No wonder his disciple would fail. He hoped Myung-wol wouldn't involve innocent people and just die obediently by her own. But at this time, Cheon Gwang had already arrived behind him. But Cheon Gwang couldn't even see the other's movements clearly, and had already been restricted in his actions. Then, the man stabbed directly at his throat. Han Yang appeared instantly, blocking the man's attack, stating that the little wild dog hadn't understood the situation. When the man observed Han Yang up close, he said, disappeared for more than 10 years. You're actually still not dead? Han Yang actually didn't know that the other recognized him. The man knew he was the master who left no enemy standing wherever he went. One of the warring state's martial kings, the underground fist king, Han Yang. Just as everyone was shocked by Han Yang's title, Han Yang spoke to remind them that the enemy had already attacked. At the same time, Baek-ji had already moved to attack Myung-wol. Seeing this, how could Ajung let him succeed? In an instant, she stood together with the assassin, but the assassin fought while retreating, launching another attack on Myung-wol. But he forgot that Cheon Gwang was still there. He told Myung-wol not to be afraid. Having managed to meet alive, he would protect his sister well. Then, he rushed towards the battle between the two. Cheon Gwang's punch directly sent the assassin flying. Although it was somewhat underhanded, he had to protect his sister. So he planned to quickly resolve the opponent with a 2 against 1. The man appeared again. Someone actually challenged him, wanting to see if he still had the skills of a fist king. Just as Han Yang was bound by thin threads, the man had already stabbed him in the shoulder. Han Yang burst out instantly, his energy blast sending the opponent flying. When the man landed, his weapon that could cut through iron was actually broken. It was truly as the legend said, possessing an indestructible body. But this excited the man's desire even more. If he could kill Han Yang, he would rise even further in the assassin world. Han Yang didn't understand why everyone was so obsessed with this title. On the other side, Cheon Gwang and the others engaged in a chaotic battle. Although the two joined forces to attack the opponent, they still couldn't hit him, and Baek-ji transformed into a shadow. After dodging the attacks of the two, the assassin headed straight for Myung-wol's direction. Fortunately, Ajung appeared in time to stop him, forcing Baek-ji away from Myung-wol again, but Baek-ji's speed was extremely fast, and his movements were varied. Even under their combined efforts, he wasn't at a disadvantage, but like this, he also couldn't complete his mission. Then, he jumped onto a tree. Using his secret technique, countless fine threads directly surrounded the two. Just as Baek-ji landed, Ajung was already controlled by the thin threads. Cheon Gwang quickly moved forward to help, but was also instantly trapped by the thin threads, and the threads were getting tighter and tighter. Seeing this, Ajung could only use her blade windstorm. Afterward, the two emerged from the smoke, striking Baek-ji simultaneously, but their clothes had been destroyed by the fine threads. At the same time, Han Yang and the other man were also competing. Although Han Yang's fist wind was powerful, he couldn't hit the agile enemy, and was also hit by him taking advantage of openings. The man admired the Fist King's powerful attacks, but attacks that couldn't hit him were useless. As another huge fist wind was launched, the man once again stabbed Han Yang. After dodging Han Yang's attack, he actually created countless shadow clones. He wanted to toy with Han Yang slowly before killing him. Then, countless shadow clones attacked Han Yang. Facing the endless shadow clones, Han Yang was stabbed again, but he immediately turned back, forcing the enemy to retreat. He changed the way he circulated his inner power. As he punched, countless energy pillars attacked the shadow clones. The enemy's shadow clones could no longer approach Han Yang. The man had the shadow clones block Han Yang's vision. He prepared to deliver a fatal blow to end the battle. The thin threads gathered like a giant snake attacking Han Yang, with countless daggers at the snake's head. While he himself appeared behind Han Yang, two attacks headed towards Han Yang simultaneously. At this critical moment, Han Yang threw out a punch. The huge energy blasted away both the daggers and the person. On the other side, the assassin's mask was already broken. Cheon Gwang speculated he would leave like last time, but this time, Baek-ji didn't intend to leave, because he was prepared to fight to the death. At this time, Monji had also arrived at Myung-wol's side. He brought a reply. The other party expressed wanting to communicate further with Myung-wol. Meanwhile, Han-young's attack also rose to the sky in the distance. Taking advantage of everyone's distraction, the assassin rushed towards Myung-wol again. On the other side, Han-yang thought that attack could finish him. Unexpectedly, at the critical moment, the attack actually avoided the man's vital points. The man finally knew that Han-yang was a man who could toy someone. Worthy of being called a monster, Han-yang said he wasn't playing. He just didn't want to fight seriously. In fact, he wasn't skilled in Qinggong. His attacks were all focused on concentrating power. So he felt there was no need for Qinggong. This also reminded the man. So, he instantly used Qinggong and disappeared from the spot. On the other side, Cheon Gwang stepped forward to stop Baekji. Unexpectedly, Baekji suddenly changed targets, aiming at Cheon Gwang's abdomen. Not long ago, Cheon Gwang told Ijung, the opponent had been luring us to attack all along. Once he moved forward, he would be attacked. He would also take this opportunity to grab the opponent. The rest would be left to Ajung. She needed to seize the chance to finish him. And Cheon Gwang wasn't wrong. He seized Baekji as expected. Ajung appeared beside them at the same time. Finally, a strike truly hit the opponent, directly sending Baekji flying and falling to the ground. Ajung quickly checked Cheon Gwang's injuries, but Cheon Gwang's abdomen revealed an iron piece. Even though he was careful in his defense, his body was still half penetrated by the plate. Cheon Gwang thanked the captain for her help, saying he definitely wouldn't have won alone. He hoped Ajung could help him train in the future. Seeing his injury wasn't serious, Ajung was relieved. At this time, Manji and Myung-wol walked over. Myung-wol looked at her brother from a distance, lost in thought. But at this moment, a voice came. The man had Myung-wol under his control. He blamed Baekji for failing, but the mission couldn't be abandoned. At this point, Myung-wol told the man that his assassination commission had been cancelled. Myung-wol had received a reply from the trading company president. The letter said the assassination had been cancelled, but the commission fee would be paid by Myung-wol. Now they had no reason to kill her, but the man didn't believe Myung-wol. Even if it was true, he wanted to take revenge for this disgrace. As soon as he finished speaking, Baekji killed the man. He had been waiting for this opportunity for a long time. He thanked everyone for making the man lose his rationality, which gave him the chance to kill him. But the beggar and the female swordswoman should be especially careful. Next time they meet, he would kill the two. After saying this, he disappeared from the spot. Han-yang congratulated the two on having a new friend. A few days later, Myung-wol came to the trading company. She wanted to continue the conversation that was not finished in the letter. Did she know that the trading company had hired assassins? She also had a new idea because of this. She would let everyone present profit. Fortunately, she wasn't dead yet, so she could tell everyone about this. Myung-wol wouldn't touch their current interests, because what she wanted to sell were weapons for the battlefield. This business, no one in the trading company was involved in. Because it was extremely dangerous, few people could survive doing it. But the profits were also incomparable to other businesses. Myung-wol took out the assassin's weapon and said she hoped everyone could give her their full support. She would make the Moksan Fortress Trading Company rise above the city of Bukwan. Afterwards, several people respectfully saw Myung-wol off. As merchants, they definitely didn't want to do dangerous business. But Myung-wol had actually resolved the assassin issue. Possibly in the future, even they might be killed by Myung-wol. For the sake of profit, they could only join hands with Myung-wol to do business. On the other side, Ijung didn't believe Cheon Gwang's martial skills at all. He actually claimed to have collected 20 martial artists' heads, and among them was even the heir of the Thousand Hands Fist. The two argued endlessly because of this. Han-yang on the side felt their 8 characters were quite compatible. He told the two that the son of the Thousand Hands Fist wasn't a divine mirror. That realm was all imagined by people. He would prove Cheon Gwang's words with actions. Han-yang asked Ajung to attack him. Hearing this, Ajung was quite willing to learn from a senior. Then she launched a sword attack. Martial artists could indeed be as tough as Vajra, which also made people mistakenly think they could be like divine beings. But once they let down their guard, their flesh was no different from ordinary people. Under specific circumstances, even children could kill immortals. The best example was himself. He was betrayed by his disciple and imprisoned underground for more than 10 years. This was the reality of the martial world. At this moment, Cheon Gwang finally realized that Manji wasn't by his sister's side, and Ijung wasn't following either. Ijung told Cheon Gwang Myung-wol had gone to the trading company. If Cheon Gwang joined Myung-wol's merchant group, he could better protect his sister in the future. When Myung-wol came out of the trading company, Cheon Gwang stopped his sister. He heard from Ijung that his sister was going to establish a war trade merchant group. He wanted to apply to join the guard. After all, he had experience on the battlefield. After speaking, he waited for his sister's response. Myung-wol was surprisingly not against her brother. Anyway, anyone could participate in the martial arts competition. After saying this, she told Cheon Gwang to look at the announcement on the street. Then, she left the place. Early the next morning, Cheon Gwang came to the market, but he forgot he was illiterate, so he could only listen to people's discussions, and learned about the location and time of the martial arts competition. Cheon Gwang told Hanyang about the martial arts competition. Hanyang wasn't interested at all, but he thought Cheon Gwang could gain training from it, and could also earn some money to supplement household expenses. On the day of the competition, it was extremely busy. Myung-wol also made a lot of money because of this, solving the initial funding problem for the trading company. When Cheon Gwang came, Manji found him. He told Cheon Gwang that he had made some adjustments to his registration form. Because there were too many registrants, he almost got eliminated in the first round. But Cheon Gwang hoped Manji wouldn't do bad things anymore. Manji, on his way back, was knocked down by someone, and the other person didn't even apologize. While helping Manji up, Cheon Gwang had already prepared for battle. He asked the man to apologize to Manji, but the other instead mocked him. Just then, someone intervened in their dispute. At the same time, the organizers asked all participants to enter. The competition officially began. For safety, all weapons with sharp edges had to have sheaths. The first round match was precisely between the impolite man from before, and coincidentally, his opponent was Cheon Gwang. As the match began, Cheon Gwang slowly walked towards the man, saying he had a gift for him. Then, a handful of sand was thrown out, followed by a direct kick to the opponent's vital area. Everyone was shocked by this. The referee quickly came forward, telling Cheon Gwang he had committed a foul, because he had attacked a place that couldn't be attacked, the opponent's penis. The spear warrior from earlier noticed Cheon Gwang's strength. It seemed he wasn't a fool, but an interesting guy. Cheon Gwang wasted the opportunity to get close to his sister due to the foul, but friends consoled him. At least he brought laughter to people. And the competition wasn't affected by the farce. The audience's enthusiasm remained high. In the end, the championship was won by the spear warrior. The competition ended successfully. Inside Cheongyang, Myung-wol welcomed the arrival of the top two. She appointed them as the captain and vice-captain respectively. As for the team members, the captain could choose them personally. Captain Kwon already had a person in mind. That was Cheon Gwang, who was eliminated in the first round. And Cheon Gwang hadn't expected him to come looking for him. Captain Kwon knew that Cheon Gwang's strength might not be high, but he had relatively rich experience. He hoped Cheon Gwang would join his guard team. Being able to stay by his sister's side, Cheon Gwang gladly agreed. The next day, the trading company took Myung-wol to find a blacksmith. He was the most famous blacksmith in the area. When he learned that Myung-wol wanted to be a weapons merchant, he said Myung-wol was more ambitious than men. Their family had been forging weapons for generations. Even the emperor's accessories were forged by them. But regardless of the purpose, he was the creator of products that brought chaos. After everyone bid farewell to the blacksmith, Myung-wol asked Cheon Gwang why he was here. Captain Kwon said that Cheon Gwang was the talent needed by the guard team. Myung-wol didn't want to interfere too much. Then she asked everyone, "How about the blacksmith just now? Could the weapons be entrusted to him for forging?" Myung-wol said, the blacksmith's weapons could enhance his combat ability. But the captain thought that the blacksmith's weapons were a bit too good. On the battlefield, if the weapons were too good, they would be targeted by enemies in an instant. Myung-wol agreed with the captain's opinion. Their products would be best if they were cheap and practical. The vice-captain said he knew someone who used a mysterious method to make 100 sickles at once. Hearing this, Myung-wol was very interested. After all, for the first trade, she wanted to see for herself. That night, the First Lady learned that Myung-wol would be leaving for 10 days. She was very worried about Myung-wol's safety. The First Lady still didn't want Myung-wol to do scary things. Myung-wol said she was a ruthless girl, telling her not to worry about her. The First Lady knew Myung-wol's personality, so she left first. Myung-wol was curious why Ijung was still here. Ijung said just in case, she would wait until Myung-wol left. So, the two stayed for a long time. Ijung spoke up, saying she understood that Myung-wol disliked Cheon Gwang, but Cheon Gwang had also suffered hardships to come back to see his sister. Looking at the scars on his body, it wouldn't be surprising if he had died. Ijung hoped Myung-wol could take pity on Cheon Gwang. Hearing this, Myung-wol fell into memories. That was the last time she saw her brother. Her brother never returned after going to find their missing mother. Her father also never returned after going to find her brother, leaving only her small self alone and afraid. Myung-wol asked Ijung about her relationship with her brother. She thought she might have a sister-in-law. They came from different backgrounds. It was impossible to understand her. Cheon Gwang's departure had caused her family to break apart. At a young age, she lived like an animal. Cheon Gwang struggled to survive on the battlefield. She herself was living in hell, enduring all kinds of disgusting things. The next day, several people set off for their destination. Just as Myung-wol was asking how much longer until they arrived, Manji looked into the depths of the forest. He heard the sound of beasts, and it was mixed with human voices. At this time, several fierce beasts were chasing two boys. In the moment of crisis, the vice-captain saved the two children. He told the children to quickly hide behind him. Suddenly, the fierce wolves had energy circulating in their bodies, then headed straight for the vice-captain. At this time, Cheon Gwang and Captain Kwon came, directly charging into the wolf pack. Captain Kwon, seeing the state of the wolf pack, told everyone to be careful. After the battle began, they found that the wolf pack could actually dodge and communicate through howling. Indeed, they were trained beasts. They centered around the children, maneuvering against the fierce wolves. Facing many beasts, the three were caught in a fierce battle. From time to time, fierce wolves would sneak attack the children. To save the children, the vice captain was also in danger. Fortunately, Cheon Gwang helped in time. The two coordinated, temporarily resolving the crisis. At this time, they also discovered that the alpha wolf was directing from a distance. Captain Kwan knew that eliminating the alpha wolf was the only way to end the battle. Seeing this, he headed straight for the alpha wolf. After instantly eliminating the alpha wolf, the wolf pack dispersed as expected. So, several people arrived at their destination. Unexpectedly, the children they saved were the village chief's sons. Learning of Myung-wol's purpose in coming here, the village chief led them to tour their smelting factory. Their craft didn't use hammers to forge, but relied on smelting and then pouring into molds. Although not as durable, the efficiency was very high. Myung-wol asked if weapons could be mass-produced like this. They would invest. The village chief very much wanted to help his benefactors, but they were now controlled by someone called the Mountain Lord. Their children or women were taken away as hostages. They had trained large numbers of beasts. The villagers couldn't resist them at all. The children had escaped only to be attacked by the wolf pack. Myung-wol asked the captain how dangerous the mountain bandits were. The captain said it would be very difficult to defeat them. The opponent was more like a military group. At this time, the Mountain Lord had already brought people to the village. The Mountain Lord asked the village chief to explain why the children were here, and half of the wolf pack that was sent to capture them had been killed. Could it be that the village had hired mercenaries to deal with them? Myung-wol wanted to step forward, but was stopped by the captain. Because if a fight broke out, he couldn't guarantee Myung-wol's safety. To punish the village, the Mountain Lord actually let fierce wolves attack a child. Just then, Cheon Gwang and the vice captain appeared. Seeing this, Myung-wol could only come forward to resolve the situation. She stated she was just the head of a merchant group. She would pay for the previous misunderstanding. Then, she slapped Cheon Gwang and expressed apologies to the other party. She also quickly made the two bow and apologize. She came here only to do a trade transaction and would give the Mountain Lord a satisfactory proposal. The Mountain Lord, seeing that the other was a beautiful noble lady, wanted to hear what she had to say. The captain told Cheon Gwang not to be sad. If Myung-wol hadn't done this, they might have died here. Cheon Gwang knew he was too rash. He wouldn't blame Myung-wol for doing this, for the safety of her subordinates and herself. She could only use interests to temporarily ease the conflict with the mountain bandits. But the Mountain Lord didn't want to discuss this in the village. He asked Myung-wol to come to the mountain stronghold to talk. Seeing this, Myung-wol could only agree, but using grooming and dressing up as an excuse, she hoped to go later. The Mountain Lord agreed to her request, and had his subordinates wait here for Myung-wol. As the Mountain Lord left, although they avoided an immediate fight, they also had to consider how to leave here alive. Now they could only wait for Manji to come back to make plans. Earlier, Myung-wol had asked Manji to follow the mountain bandits to gather intelligence. It turned out the mountain bandits had captured villagers to mine minerals. Another house had a large number of wolf packs. Manji also heard their conversation. They already believed Myung-wol's proposal. After all, Myung-wol's proposal had no impact on them. If Myung-wol tried to trick them, they would just kill her. When Manji returned, he reported what he had seen to everyone. After listening, Myung-wol revealed her plan. She decided to launch a preemptive strike against them. She didn't want to treat the villagers as slaves. The village gaining freedom would also benefit their merchant group. She was sorry to make everyone take risks with her, so she still needed everyone's opinion. When everyone left, Cheon Gwang stayed behind alone. He didn't want his sister to face danger alone. For her great cause, Myung-wol had to take the lead. And about that slap she gave Cheon Gwang, she apologized to Cheon Gwang. Cheon Gwang was surprised after hearing this. He hadn't expected his sister to apologize to him. Afterward, everyone followed Myung-wol to the mountain stronghold. They also saw the slaves there, all elderly people and women. This also reminded Myung-wol of her childhood self. Similarly, Cheon Gwang also recalled those memories. As several people walked through the camp, guards stopped everyone, asking them to hand over their weapons. And only Myung-wol could proceed forward. Seeing this, Cheon Gwang called out to Myung-wol. He was still worried about Myung-wol going alone. The subordinate urged Myung-wol to follow him. When they arrived at the main camp, the Mountain Lord had been waiting for a long time. He poured Myung-wol a cup of wine, and stated it wasn't poisoned, she could eat and drink with ease. Myung-wol didn't hesitate and took the wine cup. Before long, the two had drunk quite a bit, and the Mountain Lord could no longer drink anymore. Taking advantage of the alcohol, he no longer concealed his intentions, directly pressing Myung-wol down. Just as the Mountain Lord lowered his guard, Myung-wol already had a hairpin in her hand, directly aiming at the Mountain Lord's neck. Outside, everyone was waiting for the signal, but Captain Kwan became extremely anxious after losing his weapon. He told everyone not to worry about him. Cheon Gwang stared fixedly in the direction of the tent. On the other side, Myung-wol had already stabbed the Mountain Lord, but the Mountain Lord knocked Myung-wol to the ground with one punch. Just as he was about to deal with Myung-wol, he had already lost too much blood and fainted on the ground with no strength left. The sounds of fighting were also heard by people outside. At this moment, Manji appeared from above, landing directly in front of Myung-wol. Instantly, smoke filled the tent. At the same time, Cheon Gwang had already taken action. The vice captain also dealt with nearby guards. He told everyone to quickly retrieve their weapons. The rest could be left to the captain. The captain said without the gun in hand, he felt very anxious. The enemy mocked him for not being bitten to death by wolves, thanks to the smoke that allowed him to survive. Captain Kwon couldn't remain calm without his gun in hand. Such an embarrassing state was actually seen by others. He would make everyone who saw it lose their memory, killing all witnesses. In his hands, even a wooden stick could exert great power. With one attack, everyone was knocked flying. At this moment, his companions bring his gun to him. When the weapon is in his hands again, he becomes invincible. Just before Myung-wol and the others depart, the villagers bring everything with strong scents. Because wolves have sensitive noses, Manji plans to create a large number of pungent smoke bombs. Then he hands Myung-wol's letter to the village chief. In the letter, she asks the chief to help them destroy the mountain fortress. The chief doesn't understand why Myung-wol would fight for them. Manji tells the chief that Myung-wol also lost her family, and she was sold as a slave when she was very young. Meanwhile, on the battlefield, Cheon Gwang is struggling. Facing the combined attack of wolves and mountain bandits, he's finding it difficult to resist, constantly being hit by enemies, and the bandits are gradually surrounding him. The Mountain Lord's right-hand men have also arrived. Just then, smoke starts rising in the distance. The village chief leads the villagers with smoke bombs. Their primary goal is to rescue the captured villagers. In the tent, Manji takes advantage of the chaos to escape with Myung-wol. At this point, Cheon Gwang is surrounded and in danger. He fights back with all his strength, but there are too many opponents. Fortunately, the deputy captain comes to his aid, and together they break the stalemate. Even against multiple attackers, they hold their ground. They use the smoke to escape the encirclement. As everyone searches for Cheon Gwang and his companion, someone reports that everyone at the entrance has been defeated. The crowd hurries to check. Captain Kwon has been waiting there for some time. These two recognize each other as skilled fighters. They immediately rush towards Captain Kwon. In the distance, Cheon Gwang and the deputy captain also witness this battle. The deputy captain tells Cheon Gwang not to worry. They should head to the Mountain Lord's camp, but no one is there. Myung-wol and Manji have already escaped into the forest, when suddenly the Mountain Lord emerges from the trees, knocking Manji away with a single punch. Then, he grabs Myung-wol. If that hairpin had been a bit longer, he might have died. At this moment, several subordinates catch up. They report to the Mountain Lord that the mountain fortress has suffered heavy losses. Hearing this, the Mountain Lord becomes furious and orders everyone to go back and release the fierce beast, to prevent the villagers from escaping. As for Myung-wol, he will torture her slowly, making her wish for death, just as the Mountain Lord is about to strike. Cheon Gwang and the deputy captain arrive in time. The deputy captain tells Cheon Gwang to take Myung-wol and leave first. He will deal with the injured Mountain Lord. But Myung-wol tells Cheon Gwang to stop the bandits. They're planning to release wild beasts to attack the villagers. She wants Cheon Gwang to hurry and stop them. Seeing that Manji is already awake, Cheon Gwang tells Myung-wol to leave with Manji. When Cheon Gwang tracks the bandits, cries of anguish already echo from the darkness. Then a fierce light gleams from the darkness. Cheon Gwang quickly channels his energy. A huge tiger charges towards Cheon Gwang. Though this tiger has been trained for 2.5 years, its wild nature remains undiminished after being released. Even its trainer was instantly killed. Before the tiger, the wolf pack is helpless. This powerful presence even makes Cheon Gwang sweat. While he's thinking, the tiger suddenly pounces and knocks him down. Although Cheon Gwang often captured wild animals with Hanyang, he has never seen such a large tiger. He uses his martial arts technique and kicks the tiger. Though he sends the tiger flying, it doesn't injure the beast at all. Cheon Gwang realizes he might not easily defeat this fierce beast. At this moment, the village chief and others arrive. He has finally found his child, but the tiger also attacks them. Cheon Gwang instantly appears to block it. He tells everyone to leave quickly. The villagers tell Cheon Gwang to hold his breath. Then they throw smoke bombs at the tiger. Meanwhile, Cheon Gwang launches continuous attacks. Facing the pungent smoke, the tiger begins to struggle to avoid it. At this moment, it surprisingly releases energy pressure from its body. Blowing away the surrounding smoke, it charges directly at Cheon Gwang. In an instant, it knocks Cheon Gwang flying. Cheon Gwang can only defend with all his might. Elsewhere, Myung-wol is carrying Manji away, while the deputy captain is battling the Mountain Lord. Although the Mountain Lord is already severely injured, he was once a general after all. Facing what seems like child's play to him, he instantly gains the upper hand. Pinning the deputy captain to the ground, the deputy captain struggles with all his might, directly grabbing the Mountain Lord's wound. Using the moment when the Mountain Lord is in pain, he throws the Mountain Lord over his shoulder to the ground. Though he is young, he has experienced the battlefield. Afterward, the two abandon defense and engage in a brutal exchange of blows. When the deputy captain catches the other's punch, he uses the momentum to headbutt the Mountain Lord, then attacks him furiously. At this point, the Mountain Lord unexpectedly jumps backward, his legs locking the deputy captain's head, immobilizing him completely. With his legs pinned, he can't use his strength. Seeing this, the deputy captain bites the Mountain Lord, but it has little actual effect. At this moment, a shadow appears before the Mountain Lord's eyes. It's Myung-wol, appearing with a stone in hand. She smashes the stone hard on the Mountain Lord's face. This reminds the Mountain Lord of 6 years ago, when he massacred an entire village. Someone who witnessed this tried to strip him of his general rank, because he violated the army's code. The Mountain Lord argued back, citing his achievements, saying the other only had the title of one of the 5 kings of the warring states, not a true king. Seeing that the Mountain Lord still led beasts, he said no wonder the Mountain Lord's troops were called the Beast Troops. The Mountain Lord doesn't know why he suddenly remembers this. Perhaps because his current situation is similar to that time. Myung-wol sees the deputy captain's injuries aren't serious, and prepares to take the Mountain Lord back to the fortress. In the fortress, Cheon Gwang is still struggling with the fierce tiger. The villagers tell the chief to leave with the children first. But the child is very worried about the uncle bandage. However, they would only hinder Cheon Gwang by staying. The tiger keeps pursuing Cheon Gwang relentlessly. But with its thick skin and tough flesh, Cheon Gwang's attacks are ineffective, while the tiger's destructive power is extraordinarily strong. While dodging, Cheon Gwang is caught by the tiger's tail and thrown violently into a building. On the other side, facing the endless wolf pack, Captain Kwan is gradually running out of energy. He doesn't know how much longer he can hold out, but it's hard for him to retreat. Facing the enemy's 2 strongest fighters, he can only use his last bit of strength, just when he has no more energy left. A sudden development changes the tide of battle. Myung-wol and the deputy captain return with the Mountain Lord. Meanwhile, Cheon Gwang is getting battered by the tiger. This reminds him of practicing with Hanyang. In combat, strategy is also important. Based on your own conditions, employ your martial arts techniques effectively. To defeat a stronger opponent, you need technique. This is why they trained thousands of times. Just as Cheon Gwang dodges the tiger's attack, he counters by striking its belly, then forcefully hitting its nasal area. When the tiger struggles to get up, Cheon Gwang attacks its ankles again, solar plexus, armpits, thighs, neck, targeting all the tiger's vital points. Just as Cheon Gwang is about to launch another fierce attack, he's knocked away by the tiger's tail. Instantly, he's pinned down by the tiger again. In this critical moment, countless chains shoot upward, tightly binding the tiger. The villagers didn't leave but worked together to help Cheon Gwang. Seizing this opportunity, Cheon Gwang uses all his strength to strike the tiger's throat. Seeing their leader captured, the distant enemies scatter immediately. Myung-wol and the others prepare to help Cheon Gwang. When they arrive, they see everyone working together against the tiger. With a powerful strike from Cheon Gwang, the tiger can no longer hold on and falls. As the tiger collapses, they have completely triumphed. Afterward, several people quickly take Cheon Gwang for treatment. While thanking Myung-wol, the village chief mentions these chains are their own creation. Even blades cannot cut through them. This would certainly meet the needs of Myung-wol's trading company. Myung-wol is very satisfied, hoping they can make a lot of money together. A few days later, in Songyeonjong, wealthy young men come to watch Myung-wol's return performance. After Myung-wol's performance, everyone in the audience goes wild. Songyeonjong becomes extremely lively again. Captain Kwan and Ah-jung guard the entrance. After introducing themselves to each other, Ah-jung arranges to spar with him when they have the chance. Captain Kwan learns that the other is a descendant of the one family. Working as a guard here must have some hidden circumstances. Inside, everyone is curious about what Myung-wol's trading company will sell. But Myung-wol is only interested in one person. She heard that person's classmate holds a high position in Bukwan Fortress. She hopes to hear from him what his classmate is really like. The next day, at Myung-wol's trading company, the craftsmen have produced a batch of equipment. Though rough in appearance, the quality is good. Myung-wol discovers that Hanyang is actually working here. It turns out to repay for their previous unpaid meal. He and Cheon Gwang have been working at the trading company to pay off the debt. Meanwhile, their security team has recruited a batch of new people. Myung-wol has also received a letter of recommendation. With the goods ready, they need to find customers. At this time, Manji brings the custom-made uniforms. Since they will be meeting clients, everyone in their company must be dressed neatly. Her first business deal will be with the military department of Bukwan Fortress. The person in charge there is particularly conservative and has never visited Songyeonjong for a drink. Such a person would be more receptive to her proposal. Since Bukwan Fortress recruits farmers, the military department can't possibly equip them all with weapons. Although they have post-war compensation funds. To survive and return to collect their compensation, they need equipment. This is the breakthrough point for Myung-wol's trading company. When they pass by the training ground, everyone recognizes Myung-wol. They gossip and speak obscenely. Cheon Gwang witnesses all of this. Afterward, they find the chief instructor, Myung-wol details the prices of the equipment. Myung-wol's products aren't exceptional, but they are decently made. The armor can also block fatal strikes, but the other party indicates that many people have offered them orders for weapons and armor. Myung-wol clarifies that they've misunderstood her intention. Their weapons are for sale to farmers who've been recruited. Myung-wol's equipment is affordable, solving the problem of farmers being reluctant to buy weapons. This way, it enhances the combat strength of Bukwan's conscripts while reducing military expenses. This proposal also piques his interest. He decides to show Myung-wol around the military department, then discuss further after an in-depth exchange. After the tour, the chief instructor decides to consider it carefully. Myung-wol thinks this deal should go smoothly. When walking past several men, Myung-wol politely bows to them, but one of them rudely extends his hand and takes advantage of Myung-wol. Cheon Gwang certainly won't tolerate such behavior. Their dispute quickly draws attention. From a distance, someone loudly reprimands the two. He won't allow anyone to insult the disciples of their Sunlight Martial Arts School. At this moment, the chief instructor is also drawn by the dispute. The speaker turns out to be the instructor's son. Seeing this, Myung-wol quickly indicates it's a misunderstanding. Cheon Gwang understands his sister's meaning and hurriedly apologizes too, but the other party persists. Seeing Cheon Gwang's dissatisfied expression, he decides to resolve the misunderstanding in a martial way and asks his father to oversee a duel. The chief instructor finds it interesting and asks Myung-wol's opinion. Myung-wol is lost in thought. Captain Kwan also saw the other man make his move. Resolving it with a duel isn't bad, but why isn't the person who actually made the mistake fighting? Instead, the chief instructor's son steps up. He tells Cheon Gwang he can't win, otherwise the deal might be cancelled. But he can't lose too obviously. They're just being toyed with. Cheon Gwang sees Myung-wol remaining silent and steps forward saying he's caused trouble again. Myung-wol doesn't blame Cheon Gwang, she knows he's telling the truth. The other man tried to take liberties with her, but in the current situation, Cheon Gwang can only step forward for the duel. She tells Cheon Gwang to try not to embarrass the opponent too much. Afterward, as the two walk toward each other, the chief instructor announces the start of the match. The opponent begins with a killing move. Meanwhile, Cheon Gwang recalls the captain's words, to fight with full effort, but to lose the match. Then, the two engage in battle. A man in the distance is also attracted by the fight. He is one of the strongest warriors of the Northern Fist School. The chief instructor hurriedly goes forward to pay respects. Myung-wol didn't expect to meet him this way, but his attention is focused on the battle, because Cheon Gwang's martial arts seems strangely familiar to him. The old man, though respected by outsiders now, was once subjected to many setbacks in his youth. His most proud unit was completely destroyed. Fortunately, someone stepped in to save him, allowing him to survive. From then on, he finally realized how insignificant he was. That person told him to live well. On that battlefield, he was simply outmatched. Afterward, he was taken away from the battlefield by his disciple, and this young man somehow reminds him of that person. His gaze falls completely on Cheon Gwang. The instructor's son wanted to showcase his skills in front of his father, but Cheon Gwang is making him look bad. It seems he must use some tricks now. He charges toward Cheon Gwang again. While attacking, he quietly tells him that the man taking liberties with Myung-wol is her destiny. A courtesan actually putting on airs and discussing cooperation with his father. Just as Cheon Gwang is distracted by these thoughts, he moves to the side, landing a hit on Cheon Gwang while continuing to insult him. These words completely infuriate Cheon Gwang. He will pay for his foul mouth. Seeing this, everyone rushes toward Cheon Gwang, and Cheon Gwang no longer holds back, directly punching toward the crowd. But just as he throws his punch, an old man suddenly appears in front of him. He asks Cheon Gwang who taught him his martial arts. Later, they find Hanyang. Mongjeo can't believe he would see his benefactor again, and kneels down in gratitude. He invites Hanyang to live in his mansion. Hanyang says he just needs help paying off his food debt. Mongjeo gladly agrees, and remarks that Cheon Gwang looks exactly like a young Hanyang. If he had known earlier that Hanyang was betrayed, he would have helped. Hanyang doesn't care about such worldly matters. Cheon Gwang knows Hanyang just doesn't like troubling people. Afterward, he chatted with Hanyang for a long time. When parting, he says he will visit Hanyang often. Then he tells the chief instructor to give the business to Myung-wol. After all, they don't need to pay much. Besides, his son took liberties with Myung-wol. During the practice, his words were all heard by Mongjeo. He apologizes to Myung-wol for his poor management. Seeing this, the chief instructor also apologizes for his son. Myung-wol, looking at the scene before her, is at a loss. She hurriedly bows back, thanking them for their trust. This is the first time in Myung-wol's life she has been treated this way. Before, people always had hidden motives, but for the first time, she doesn't feel the need to be subservient. Cheon Gwang, watching his sister, doesn't know what to say. A few days later, Cheon Gwang and Ajung practice as usual. Cheon Gwang tells Ajung what happened. He thought he was going to cause trouble for his sister again. Unexpectedly, Hanyang helped. Ajung is surprised that Cheon Gwang doesn't know about the 5 kings of the warring states. On the battlefield, Cheon Gwang can't remember those titles. Who knows when they might be eliminated by others? At this moment, Ejung suddenly realizes they are so close. She becomes extremely embarrassed and with one attack sends Cheon Gwang flying. Meanwhile, the deputy captain asks Captain Kwan to help check the loading. He didn't know Captain Kwan could write. Captain Kwan says knowing how to read and write helps one survive longer on the battlefield. At the same time, Myung-wol tells Manji to ensure the blacksmiths deliver on time. If manpower is insufficient, add more people. They must be fully prepared. A few days later, the chief instructor comes to inspect the goods. He thanks Myung-wol's trading company for preparing so quickly. The southern front has suddenly become tense, and these supplies are urgently needed. The chief instructor hopes the first cooperation will be done with full effort, because the captain there hates it when people make mistakes. That was before they were known as the Five Kings of the Warring States. Their first joint battle was against an army of 500,000. In that era of barbarian invasion, they were trained from childhood in warfare, numbering up to 1 million. They divided into 2 routes, heading straight for the capital. Everyone in the imperial palace advised the emperor to give up resistance. A young strategist came up with a plan, inviting 5 people to fight one route of barbarians: the sword saint, Won-gyun, the war hero, Gubu, the fearsome lady, Gayonga, the forbidden arts master, Cha-gui, the Hell's Buddha, Hanyang. Their participation completely changed the tide of battle. Cheon Gwang asks Hanyang if what Ajung said is true. Hanyang says he's forgotten the exact numbers. Plus, their sects also participated in the battle. After defeating the Huns, the emperor's authority gradually waned. More and more people claimed to be kings. Cheon Gwang asks how Ajung knows so much detail. Hanyang tells Cheon Gwang that it's her family history. One of the 5 kings was Ajung's grandfather. But that person has a peculiar personality. Before Hanyang could finish, Ajung leaves. Hanyang suspects he said something wrong. Meanwhile, the chief instructor plans to send his son to Shaolin to cultivate his character, then apologizes to Myung-wol again. Myung-wol says after she leaves, her friend will be at the association. She then introduces her friend to the chief instructor. Perhaps out of professional habit, her friend rushes toward him saying some ambiguous words. Realizing her mistake, she immediately apologizes. At night, Myung-wol sits on her bed. All her savings have been completely used up. She is finally starting to make money. A few days later, the supply convoy has been traveling for a long time. Due to the large amount of supplies, they can only use ox carts for transport. This also makes their journey slow. Of course, the large amount of goods would also attract others' envy. And this situation isn't the first time they've encountered it. But Cheon Gwang's attacks prevent thieves from getting near the goods. With Cheon Gwang present, they haven't suffered any losses. They have been marching for a month. Myung-wol, as the president, is personally leading the team. She tells Manji to go to the destination first to report. They will arrive soon. In the military camp, the chief captain says he really hates people who are late. Manji explains that the convoy will arrive in 1 day, but the other only says, "I understand." During the march, Cheon Gwang notices something. He tells the deputy captain to protect Myung-wol well. Then he spots several people in the distance. They are bullying a woman. Seeing they are all enemies, he prepares to act, then instantly charges into the crowd. Several people see they are no match for him, and try to distract Cheon Gwang's attention, while others rush toward the woman. But they don't even get the chance to approach her before being knocked off the cliff by the woman. After dealing with 2 men, Cheon Gwang sees the woman standing at the edge of the cliff. The woman says nothing, just bows in gratitude, then jumps off, leaving Cheon Gwang at a loss. The next day, Myung-wol arrives at the military camp. The soldiers are all attracted by Myung-wol's beauty. The chief captain says he hates it most when supplies don't match. Myung-wol says they prepared more than expected. The chief captain responds, "I understand." Someone explains, the captain always says unacceptable, then says, "I understand." At this time, a subordinate reports that the river dispute has begun. He also invites Myung-wol to see the front line. Myung-wol feels refusing would be impolite, so she agrees. On the battlefield, blood has dyed the river red. This is also Myung-wol's first time seeing war, although she has experienced much life and death since childhood. Facing thousands of deaths, she still feels uncomfortable. Under the chief captain's command, these people can only charge one after another. The battlefield also fully exposes the ugliness of human nature. She will often see such things in the future. As the head of the trading company, she can't be looked down upon. Just as Myung-wol is trying hard to control herself, Cheon Gwang steps forward and holds her hand. He tells Myung-wol that fear is inevitable, but he won't let Myung-wol fall. If she feels sick, just look at the sky. He will always protect Myung-wol. Just then, a figure appears in the sky. It's General of Cheng Nation, So Yu. He slowly descends to the middle of the river. Seeing this, the chief captain says this person is too annoying, so he immediately uses his lightness skill, landing directly in front of the general. The two meet without saying much, directly engaging in full combat. The battle's impact spreads throughout the battlefield. River water splashes to the distant crowd. People exclaim that the opponent is fighting evenly with one of Bukwan's 12 strongest. The battle thus ends without a victor. Myung-wol's trading company stays temporarily for the handover of supplies. She asks the deputy captain to send samples for testing. When they enter, they are attracted by the high-grade weapons on the shelves. The deputy captain accidentally knocks over a cup, wetting the papers on the table. Guards hear sounds in the tent and tell them to leave immediately. Everyone hurriedly takes the papers out, planning to return them once they dry. Elsewhere, Manji sighs at the horror of war. He asks Cheon Gwang about his first battlefield experience. Cheon Gwang says the first time he was fortunately pinned down by corpses, not killed, but he was so scared he didn't dare move. Even years later, the fear hasn't subsided. Later, he was noticed by Tae-ho, who trained him, training specifically to ambush warriors. He worked hard to survive in order to see his family. Manji envies the feeling of having relatives. Cheon Gwang says they already consider Manji family, although he once caused Cheon Gwang to be mistaken for a thief. At this time, Myung-wol walks out from the tent. She wants to check the supplies one last time. Cheon Gwang wants to go with Myung-wol. Surprisingly, Myung-wol agrees to his request. Afterward, they go to inquire about the supply verification results, but the verification results still need some time, so they walk out of the camp to wait. Wordless on the way, Myung-wol recalls her earlier mention of pain. That might prevent her from opening up to her brother. Cheon Gwang suggests they head back, as they've gone too far from the camp. Just then, they notice lights in the distance. Two people are discussing something. As Cheon Gwang and Myung-wol listen to their conversation, it's the chief captain and the enemy general. The chief captain is actually telling the other side to ambush his own troops. At this moment, they also discover someone eavesdropping in the distance. Although they didn't make any sound, the chief captain senses their presence. The brother guesses they don't know there are two of them. So, he takes off his trading company uniform. The two don't know how much he heard, but they definitely won't let him leave. Cheon Gwang pretends to be one of their soldiers. Questioning the chief captain about why he chose to betray them, the chief captain is unconcerned. The reason is simple, because he wants more power and wealth. While they're talking, two people rush toward Cheon Gwang. Cheon Gwang knows they haven't discovered Myung-wol, so he releases energy pressure to cover his sister's presence. Then, he punches directly at the enemy. Seeing the power of his attack, the two realize he's not from their troops, and by now, Cheon Gwang has already dealt with the underlings. Seeing this, General So-yu prepares to personally step in, but is stopped by the chief captain, who says he'll handle it. He walks toward Cheon Gwang, asking who he really is. Cheon Gwang only says he is just a war slave. The captain, seeing Cheon Gwang wants to die nameless, prepares to grant his wish. Cheon Gwang leaps forward with force, launching an attack at the chief captain. Unexpectedly, he's hit by a punch. This reminds him of Han Yang's words. They have trained together for 2.5 years, but Cheon Gwang can't rely solely on his martial arts. He must also be flexible in application. Otherwise, he will never defeat Han Yang. And if he encounters others, his advice is to run away quickly. The moment Cheon Gwang lands, the chief captain is already behind him. Cheon Gwang dodges the attack while striking at the chief captain, but his attack has no effect, so he is thrown against a nearby tree. Cheon Gwang counterattacks again, crouching to gather strength for one last effort, then using all his strength to strike directly at the chief captain's abdomen, but still unable to hurt him. Cheon Gwang doesn't give up. A move finally hits the other's face, seeing his attack finally effective. Cheon Gwang quickly creates distance, just as he's thinking of a strategy. The chief captain already draws his dual blades. He really hates fighting. He stabs one blade toward Cheon Gwang. Instantly, Cheon Gwang's body is pierced, blood splattering. Myung-wol in the distance clearly sees everything, but someone covers her mouth, preventing her from making a sound. The deputy captain and Manji appear by her side. Earlier, while the deputy captain was drying the paper, Manji was curious about what they were doing, then grabbed a paper to check. When Manji saw what was written, he knew something was wrong and found this place. They can only watch from a distance as Cheon Gwang falls into the ravine. The chief captain tells General So-yu to leave quickly, then proceed according to plan. Afterward, Myung-wol and the others return to the camp. According to the paper, they will be ambushed. They might all die here. Myung-wol says nothing. She keeps thinking about how Cheon Gwang protected her earlier, her mind filled with images of Cheon Gwang being injured. Now she has no idea what to do. Meanwhile, Cheon Gwang thinks he's in heaven. He remembers being stabbed and falling off the cliff. Now his body feels as heavy as iron. Suddenly, a man appears before him. It's his deceased father. After leaving home as a child, he never saw his father again. He desperately expresses his regret to his father. If he hadn't left home casually, his father wouldn't have died that way. But his father only says one thing to him: please take care of his sister Myung-wol. Then he wakes from the dream. A foreigner named Make-young appears before him. He hurriedly calls for others. Cheon Gwang struggles to ask where he is. An old woman approaches. She's called Noah. They found Cheon Gwang by the river. At that time, she was eating delicious meatballs and discovered the dying Cheon Gwang. Thinking he couldn't survive, but the internal energy in his body was helping him stop the bleeding. Afterward, the old woman brought him back. While applying medicine to Cheon Gwang, Jium returns and discovers it's the man who saved her. The old woman says since they know each other, help treat him together. Then, the two begin to channel their martial energy. As Jium continues to output internal energy, she begins to show discomfort. The old woman tells her not to push too hard, but she persists until the treatment is complete. To save Cheon Gwang, they suffered a lot. Jium's body was already weak, and saving him caused her illness to recur. She's been bedridden for 5 days. But Cheon Gwang should be more grateful to whoever taught him martial arts, because these skills saved his life. Hearing that 5 days have passed, Cheon Gwang tries to get up, but his body can't move. The old woman tells him his injuries have affected his internal organs. It's impossible to recover so quickly. Cheon Gwang remembers the previous chief captain. His body involuntarily begins to tremble. After that battle, Manji searched around the river. There were dead soldiers everywhere, but no sign of Cheon Gwang. Then he returned to report to Myung-wol that he couldn't find Cheon Gwang. After daybreak, he wanted to search again, but Myung-wol didn't speak, constantly thinking about how Cheon Gwang protected her. The current helplessness reminds her of before. After escaping from that hellish place, Soju planned to establish Chongyongjong. They needed to protect themselves, become ruthless women. Then, Myung-wol made a decision. If they fled, Bukwan Fortress might not work with them again. Whether Bukwan Fortress believes the chief captain's betrayal or not, they lost the supplies. So, she tells Manji to take that letter to Bukwan Fortress. If Manji delivers the letter, it will definitely arrive within 10 days. Myung-wol knows Manji really wants to find Cheon Gwang, but if they don't do this, the trading company will return to square one. They must stop the chief captain's plan. Myung-wol hurriedly writes a letter, asking Manji to take it with him. Afterward, Myung-wol finally expresses what's in her heart, asking the remaining people to help her with one thing: find Cheon Gwang. 2 days later, Cheon Gwang was able to get out of bed with people's help. Noah was taking Maekyung to the riverside again to collect iron items to sell. Cheon Gwang was left alone, thinking about his sister. He believed that with her intelligence, she would surely be safe. Jium had shown remarkable physical talent since childhood, deeply adored by her father. She also loved martial arts and began inheriting combat skills from an early age, but her body gradually became weak. Sometimes even breathing was difficult, let alone keeping up with her father's training pace. Her father couldn't accept that his only heir was like this, so he named his nephew as the successor instead. Seeing this, Noah took her to the mountains, researching martial arts and herbs to treat her. Slowly, her body began to change. Although the illness wasn't cured completely, those moments of breathing difficulty gradually decreased. Her inner strength cultivation accelerated. She even began to master flying. Cheon Gwang was amazed when he saw Jium practicing again. As he tried to approach, he fell to the ground. Jium quickly helped him up and treated his wounds again. Cheon Gwang praised Jium for being impressive, saying that though he had seen people walking in the sky before, seeing it up close still felt magical. Jium said it was nothing, just directing energy to where it needed to go, just like how she was treating his wounds now. Cheon Gwang thanked them for saving his life and told them his name. Hearing this, Jium introduced herself, then asked Cheon Gwang how he got such severe injuries. Cheon Gwang told her what happened. Jium envied having a brother like him. They promised to heal Cheon Gwang quickly so he could search for his sister. Cheon Gwang asked her if he could learn to fly like she did. Jium said she could teach Cheon Gwang the secrets of this martial art. In the military camp, someone was moving swiftly. He had just received intelligence when he noticed a light in the distance. He wondered why there was such a bright place in the camp. It turned out to be Myung-wol bathing. Though Myung-wol was beautiful, he needed to quickly deliver the intelligence. But Myung-wol's attractive figure made him take another look. At that moment, the vice captain appeared behind him. Myung-wol bathed every day, waiting for just such an opportunity. She discovered a secret letter on the man, learning that the enemy's sneak attack would happen in 7 days. She told the vice captain to deal with this man and returned to her tent. The next day, while the chief captain and others were studying battle strategies, Myung-wol brought her people to request an audience. On the surface, she was thanking the chief captain for letting them rest well, but her real purpose was to see which commanders could be persuaded. If she could convince half of them, they could prevent the sneak attack. Most importantly, she wanted to check if the vice captain had betrayed them. He was the key to stopping the attack. Meanwhile, Cheon Gwang was still receiving treatment. Jium explained at length how to practice flying, but Cheon Gwang said it was harder to understand than Maekyung's words. Learning with Hanyang wasn't this difficult. Jium explained that energy training was about absorbing the surrounding energy. Cheon Gwang still found it confusing. At this point, Noah appeared and told them flying wasn't that easy, since Jium had exceptional talent. If not for her physical condition, she would certainly be famous throughout the world. Noah hadn't expected the man who taught Cheon Gwang to still be alive. They had crossed paths a few times long ago. In that war-torn era, they didn't fight because of any hatred. Looking at Cheon Gwang and Jium, Noah thought about how fate was truly mysterious. They were part of an intelligence group, the secretive team of 5, following their master through numerous campaigns for years. Having never failed, they waited in the cave for 2 days. They didn't know that the 4th member had been caught peeping at someone bathing. Just as they were wondering why the 4th member hadn't returned, movement on the opposite bank of the river caught their attention. Myung-wol's merchant group had come looking for Cheon Gwang. They were nervous, having never seen foreigners before. After difficult communication, they met with Cheon Gwang. When they learned Myung-wol wasn't in danger, Cheon Gwang finally felt relieved. Then they told Cheon Gwang about Myung-wol's plan. At this moment, Jium noticed a change in Cheon Gwang. The energy flow in his body was much stronger than before. This made Jium very pleased. Meanwhile, the secret team had also followed them here. One member immediately returned to headquarters to report to their master. General So-yu felt their secret report had been intercepted. He decided to use verbal communication in the future, and gave a token to his subordinate to prevent suspicion. The next day, everyone was helping Noah process herbs. Cheon Gwang was still practicing energy cultivation with Jium. He could now gather energy in his dantian. The next step was to condense and move the energy. This was the basics of Jium's family martial arts. Cheon Gwang thought it sounded simple, but couldn't do it when he tried. He felt Guillaume was even worse at teaching than Hanyang. Noah watched the two. It had been a long time since she saw Guillaume smile like that. Seeing everyone had worked hard all day, Noah specially made sleep incense to help everyone sleep soundly. Then she walked out alone, asking the 3 people in the distance why they had come. She realized they had been watching them for several days. She decided to subdue them before questioning their purpose. The 3 had no choice but to fight together, but their blades couldn't touch her. It was as if an invisible force deflected their attacks. The next moment, the 3 attackers were forced to attack each other. The 3 were no match for Noah and fell into the water, leaving only Noah floating above the river. The leader suddenly burst out of the water, but was firmly grabbed by the neck. Noah knew he was the leader of the 3 and directly asked their purpose. But several sword energies separated the 2. General So-yu wouldn't let her kill his loyal hawks. He never expected the old master of the Jium family to be hiding in such a place. As a child, he had once seen the Jium family master with his father. He never thought he would see her again at the edge of a battlefield. Heaven truly favored the So family. Noah found it laughable and charged at him first. In the house, Cheon Gwang was awakened by Jium. She heard a loud commotion outside. As they went out to check, they saw a terrifying scene. General So-yu lamented that time spares no one. The person he once looked up to was now so weak. Seeing this, Jium rushed forward. Fortunately, Cheon Gwang stopped her in time. Cheon Gwang told everyone to take Jium away. General So-yu stated he hadn't come for Cheon Gwang. Their family and the Jium family divided the Chang nation, with constant conflicts, but today might bring an end. If only the Jium family heir disappeared. But he never expected to encounter the Jium family heir here. As he spoke, Cheon Gwang had already stepped forward. The general laughed at his useless effort. Going this far for a dying person. Regardless, they would all die here. Several sword energies shot toward Cheon Gwang. With nowhere to dodge, he stood in front of Noah, but Jium blocked the flying sword, saving both of them. Jium lightly tapped her foot, caught the flying weapons with her bare hands, and then threw all the weapons into the water. The general was surprised. Rumors couldn't be fully trusted. Then he directly attacked everyone with exploding seawater, but Jium returned all attacks back to him. Noah told everyone that their martial arts focused on healing. Although they could block damage, they would soon be defeated. But seeing the two fighting fiercely, Noah said that given Guillaume's exceptional talent, she could still hold her own against the general for a few rounds. At this point, General So-yu had been hit by flying rocks. In his anger, his attacks became more fierce. Noah saw Guillaume was in trouble, and told them to quickly take her to the medicine room. Then she asked Mek-young to take out medicine brought from abroad, and asked someone else to bring over a medicine jar to apply to Cheon Gwang's wound. This medicine could temporarily stop bleeding and numb pain. Then Noah had Cheon Gwang drink some medicine. Although diluted into liquid, this medicine couldn't be consumed in large amounts. At this moment, a figure crashed through the house from outside. It was General So-yu falling from the sky. He couldn't believe that a frail girl had such power. He couldn't let Jium live, or she would become a threat to his family. A sky full of sword shadows flew towards Jium. As the smoke cleared, Jium had blocked all attacks. The general appeared behind her simultaneously. The blade attacked again. Jium nimbly dodged, and then took the upper hand. But she collapsed due to her body's limitations. The general couldn't tolerate this humiliation, raising his sword to eliminate Jium. At the critical moment, Cheon Gwang arrived just in time. His eyes were bloodshot, and he pinned the general to the ground. Just before, Noah had Mek-young tie them together. Then their energy was fused. Noah would maximize the drug's effect. She told Cheon Gwang to temporarily forget fear. Countless fist shadows fell on the general. At this moment, a sword light flew towards Cheon Gwang, but it was blocked by Noah. She told Cheon Gwang not to be afraid. She would help block sword attacks. Cheon Gwang just needed to focus on attacking. Just when Cheon Gwang thought he was going to be stabbed, Noah blocked the sword. Cheon Gwang had no more concerns and attacked with full force. General So's counterattacks couldn't get near Cheon Gwang. Now it was completely one-sided with Cheon Gwang attacking. At this moment, numerous smoke bombs exploded. With limited visibility, Noah told Cheon Gwang not to move. Meanwhile, the general's subordinates came to his side, urging him to retreat temporarily. But with the enemy right before him, he didn't want to give up. So he charged towards Jiam. Cheon Gwang moved to block him immediately, but was firmly held back by the general's subordinates. As he struggled to break free, everything was already decided, so Yu stabbed a sword towards Jiam. They could only watch everything happen. To ensure the general's safe departure, his subordinates wouldn't let go even at the cost of their lives, leaving everyone in mourning. Looking at the tragedy before them, Cheon Gwang didn't know what to say. At this moment, shouts came from the distance. The surprise attack had begun. Noah told Cheon Gwang to quickly return to the camp. Jiam would want him to save his sister. Hearing this, Cheon Gwang bowed deeply in gratitude and expressed his apologies to her. Meanwhile, the military camp was already ablaze. The two armies were engaged in battle. Soldiers were looking for officers to command, but they didn't know that those in charge had been knocked down. The chief captain hadn't expected that a woman would overhear his plans and persuade many officers to stop him. This would affect his future status in the enemy country. So, Myung-wol must die here. Just earlier, the chief captain had received a verbal message. Due to the exposed plan, the sneak attack was moved up. No matter how the chief captain arranged things, it would begin at between 3 and 5 o'clock very early in the morning. The chief captain hated being ordered around. He was nobody's subordinate. Then, the chief captain ordered his soldiers to distribute wine and food to reward them for several days of battle. At the same time, the vice captain came to Myung-wol's tent. Most of the officers had already gathered there. The vice captain hoped everyone would give him a satisfactory explanation. Myung-wol told the vice captain the situation. Manji's letter should have been sent to headquarters. They just needed to prepare in advance to disrupt the chief captain's plan. But they didn't know the sneak attack plan had been moved up. Countless fire arrows were already being shot. Then, the camp was invaded by the enemy. The chief captain also appeared before Myung-wol and the others. The officers were no match for him. In an instant, only Myung-wol remained. Just as the chief captain was about to finish Myung-wol, the vice captain blocked his attack. He still couldn't believe the chief captain would betray them. The role model for all of them. Why would he defect to the enemy? He would rather believe Myung-wol's words were lies. The chief captain wasn't satisfied with his current power. He needed more. He admired Myung-wol's eloquence, turning his loyal subordinates against him. Just as the vice captain was being defeated, numerous ropes entangled the chief captain. Myung-wol told the chief captain they had prepared a small force in advance to prevent today's events. Then the prepared archers appeared. Countless arrows flew towards the chief captain. The officers also attacked him together, but he still sent them all flying. He vowed to kill everyone. The vice captain quickly took Myung-wol and fled toward the camp, but the camp was already in chaos. The chief captain closely pursued them. Just as he was about to finish Myung-wol, 3 attacks came from the distance. It was Manji returning with reinforcements. Just as the soldiers were losing morale, thunderous drums sounded, a figure appeared. Myung-wol appeared on horseback on the hillside. She shouted that Bukwan soldiers shouldn't give up. Their families were still waiting for them to return home. She encouraged everyone to unite. Only by fighting bravely with her could they return to their homeland. Then, she rode her horse, leading everyone forward. Seeing the vice captain's sword, the soldiers immediately found direction, following Myung-wol to charge at the enemy. It turned out that just now 2 people had rescued Myung-wol. They charged directly at the chief captain. The 2 coordinated perfectly, one near and one far. In an instant, the 3 were in a chaotic battle. In the distance, Manji told Myung-wol and the 2 that the chief captain's betrayal was already known to the Bukwan minister. Because troops needed to be dispatched, they first sent Juhyang, who had the best lightness skill, and Yuang-gu, the most talented disciple of the light sword. The vice captain told the 2 that the camp was already in chaos. Without officers' command, the soldiers would soon be defeated by the enemy. Myung-wol didn't want to wait passively. She wanted to stall until the reinforcements arrived. Then they went to a conspicuous location. The vice captain, due to serious injuries, couldn't lead the troops, so he gave his sword to Myung-wol. Then Myung-wol went up the mountain alone. At this moment, 2 enemy soldiers discovered Myung-wol. The vice captain appeared just in time and dealt with them. Then, he followed Myung-wol, charging at the front. Meanwhile, as the 3 were locked in a difficult battle, countless arrows suddenly flew towards the 2 from the distance. It was the enemy's reinforcements coming. Taking advantage of this chaos, the chief captain left. Seeing this, the two prepared to eliminate these enemies first. But the battle situation elsewhere attracted their attention. Seeing Myung-wol had gathered the soldiers together, they admired Myung-wol's courage. But without combat experience, she could easily be killed. So, Ju-hyang told Yeong-gu to go support Myung-wol. On a hillside, General So's younger brother arrived with troops. He also noticed Myung-wol's movements and aimed his bow at her. An arrow filled with inner power flew towards Myung-wol. The vice captain instantly appeared to block the attack. The power of the attack shattered his weapon. But his attack didn't stop. They had nowhere to dodge. Fortunately, Yeong-gu appeared and blocked the attack. He told Myung-wol to quickly retreat. The enemy's reinforcements were coming, but Myung-wol refused his kindness. Because the soldiers were all watching her. If she left, morale would definitely drop. As they spoke, the two armies clashed. The vice captain protected Myung-wol with all his might. At this moment, a huge attack knocked the two away. The chief captain had arrived. The root of all evil was Myung-wol. He couldn't be at ease without finishing her. Facing the chaotic battlefield, Cheon Gwang had been searching for Myung-wol in the distance. Then he noticed something and rushed towards the two on the battlefield. In the moment of crisis, Cheon Gwang appeared. He punched the chief captain's arm, then caught Myung-wol. When his sister saw her brother again, she also had some unexplainable emotions. The chief captain could hardly believe. That man should have been dead. Cheon Gwang knew he hadn't become stronger, and the opponent hadn't become weaker. The only change was that he now knew both himself and his enemy. After returning from the edge of death, he learned to adapt. Using his flexible body, he landed a hit on the opponent. Then, they separated again. At this moment, the soldiers all noticed the chief captain. They cheered that the chief captain had finally returned to the battlefield, but they were directly knocked away by the chief captain. He was extremely angry, not understanding why everyone was stopping him. From a soldier to a captain, he had crawled his way up the battlefield. Those with power were playing political games. He wanted greater development, but everyone came to stop him. He could only kill everyone who blocked him. Seeing this, Cheon Gwang told everyone to protect Myung-wol. He knew he couldn't fight head-on. He had to make good use of what he had learned. Then the two charged at each other again. Cheon Gwang directed energy to his dantian, then sent energy to where he needed it. Although his attacks increased in power, he was still knocked away by the counterattack. To hit Cheon Gwang, the chief captain began indiscriminate attacks. The soldiers couldn't believe it. The chief captain had truly betrayed them. At this point, the vice captain arrived. Although the chief captain had left them, it was too early for them to give up. Myung-wol returned the sword to the vice captain, letting him command the soldiers again. She called Manji to gather troops elsewhere. At this moment, Cheon Gwang caught the chief captain's attack and directly broke his twin blades. The chief captain couldn't believe that Cheon Gwang had recovered his strength in less than half a month. What power had he received to dare challenge him again? Elsewhere, shouts arose. Ju-hyang had gathered the left flank troops. General So's brother flew into the air to examine the entire battlefield situation. Just as he was thinking, Yeong-gu flew up and interrupted him. Then he returned to his troops, ordering his deputy to sound the retreat drums. Although they could possibly win, they would pay a heavy price. As the retreat drum sounded, he charged into the battlefield again. At this moment, Myung-wol also heard the retreat drums. Ju-hyang came to her side, telling her to leave quickly. Although the enemy had begun to retreat, there could still be unpredictable factors on the battlefield. Looking at the chaotic battlefield, Myung-wol remembered something. At this point, Cheon Gwang was already in a tough battle. Just as the two fists clashed, the chief captain's arms were in pain from the impact. Looking at Cheon Gwang, his old wound had been torn open. Cheon Gwang gritted his teeth, refusing to fall. The next scene shocked him directly. Someone appeared and finished off the chief captain. He thanked Cheon Gwang for distracting the chief captain. Otherwise, he couldn't have succeeded so easily. With that, he left. At this moment, the drug's effect on Cheon Gwang wore off. Pain engulfed his entire body. He had to leave quickly. On the chaotic battlefield, he had no strength to stand. Retreating soldiers trampled on him. Just as he was about to lose consciousness, Myung-wol appeared rushing towards Cheon Gwang. She told Cheon Gwang to grab her hand. Then she pulled Cheon Gwang onto her warhorse. Myung-wol had always liked riding large horses since childhood. But her brother Cheon Gwang couldn't lift her up like their father, because adults were all working. Cheon Gwang could only crawl to let her ride. They heard from elders that there would be real big horses in the city. Cheon Gwang promised Myung-wol he would definitely let her ride a real horse. At that time, it would surely be more fun for the two of them to ride together. To this day, they had finally fulfilled that wish. Except, they were galloping through a chaotic battlefield. Thus, this war also came to an end. The wounded were all returning to Bukwan. Cheon Gwang and Myung-wol were among the troops. Someone told Myung-wol about what happened to Cheon Gwang in the valley. Seeing Cheon Gwang with a high fever but shivering from cold, that person hurriedly went to find something to cover Cheon Gwang. While Myung-wol was recalling the battlefield events, when they were galloping through the battlefield, Cheon Gwang had already lost consciousness. Myung-wol held Cheon Gwang tightly as they moved forward. This reminded her of childhood memories. Those times were truly happy. Then, seeing Cheon Gwang constantly shivering, she looked at her coat. Manji saw Cheon Gwang unconscious and was in tears. He feared losing his friend. At this moment, the person who went to get a blanket returned and found that Cheon Gwang already had a coat covering him. Meanwhile, in the valley, Maekyoung was saying goodbye to Noah. He was about to return to his wandering life. He asked Noah about her plans. Noah had worked hard her whole life. In her youth, she focused on martial arts. After having children, she thought for them. In old age, she gave everything for her granddaughter's illness. But she never expected it would end like this. She would return to Chang Nation to avenge her granddaughter, placing the enemy before Jiam's grave to comfort her poor soul. In Cheongyunjong, the head courtesan was very worried after hearing about Myung-wol's situation. But Myung-wol was focused on looking at the account books. She hadn't expected Suran to earn so much money. Suran said it was all thanks to Captain Kwan. Captain Kwan demonstrated their equipment to people every day. Of course, she also sold many weapons with her involvement. At this moment, someone came to visit. He claimed to be a messenger from Bukwan Fortress. Because the minister had summoned Myung-wol, he came to deliver the message. Meanwhile, Cheon Gwang, after recovering, continued training with Hanyang. After a few moves, Hanyang noticed Cheon Gwang had learned something interesting. Ijung and Manji were watching from a distance. Ijung also noticed the change in Cheon Gwang's martial arts. She pointed out that this completely deviated from the Boxing King's guidance. Hanyang didn't mind. He didn't even care about his own sect. And it was more interesting to practice with Cheon Gwang this way. He wasn't interested in the orthodox sect's inheritance. He had seen plenty of orthodox people doing evil things. In Bukwan Fortress, Myung-wol went to see the minister, but was surrounded by many people, although it would be the same in Moksan Fortress. Here, people weren't watching because she was a courtesan, but because she had saved countless lives on the battlefield. Everyone said she was the white sword woman who broke through the darkness, killing the evil traitor with one sword. At this moment, a couple came forward to thank Myung-wol. He was alive thanks to Myung-wol. Seeing they had a young child, Myung-wol gave them some money for treating wounds. This immediately attracted more people to surround Myung-wol. When warlords claimed kingship, only two people supported the emperor. One was the Bukangkwan family, who supported on the surface but actually controlled the emperor. The other was the minister who defeated the Huns, Yunho. Today, Myung-wol was summoned by the minister. The minister had heard about Myung-wol's contributions in this great battle. She had kept casualties to a minimum, but they still lost a great general, and supplies were all burned. They had to take responsibility for the chief captain's betrayal. But for the loss of burned supplies and money, their finances were tight, making it difficult to pay in full. So they specially called Myung-wol to discuss options. Captain Kwan knew they were refusing payment, but such a loss wasn't something Myung-wol's merchant group could bear. After hearing this, Myung-wol didn't answer for a while. She didn't know the other's true intentions. Was it a test, or did they really not want to pay? At this point, the minister asked Myung-wol again. Myung-wol stated that they would wait for payment no matter how long it took. After all, these weren't supplies from just one merchant group, but she could accept only half the payment, and the person sitting there probably wasn't the minister. She remembered that person had been to Cheongyunjong. The real minister should be somewhere watching her. If they truly didn't want to pay, the minister wouldn't need to summon her personally. Because both people the minister knew could handle it. There was only one eunuch here, which was suspicious. So all this should be a test for Myung-wol. The real minister should be the eunuch. At this moment, someone entered from outside. It was the woman Myung-wol had given charity to earlier. She was the minister. Disguise was just a hobby. She had been in a kneeling position. When she stood up, she was as tall as the vice captain. Vice captain asked her if she was male or female. The minister said gender wasn't important. What mattered was the ability one possessed. Captain Kwan interrupted the minister. For the war 20 years ago until now, the minister seemed too young. The minister smiled, because during that war, she was only 8 years old. She slowly walked to her seat, telling everyone not to doubt. She was the real Minister Yunho. At this point, Ju Young stepped forward to confirm this. The minister acknowledged that Myung-wol had great courage. She also revealed her true purpose. She wanted to build roads that connect in all directions. The current roads were unfavorable for transporting during wars. She wanted to find a suitable person to be in charge. She would pay for the goods and the road construction. Hoping Myung-wol would be responsible for uniting all merchant associations to complete this task. Myung-wol was very interested. After all, road construction would also benefit the people. But she still needed to talk to all the merchant groups first. In Moksan Fortress, Hanyang had another meal without paying, leaving Cheon Gwang and Manji to deal with the aftermath. Without money, they could only work to pay off the debt. At this moment, they spotted Ijung on the bridge. She was meeting a man alone. Both said Cheon Gwang's lover was about to be stolen. Ijung seemed downcast after hearing the man's words. At this moment, Cheon Gwang and Manji appeared behind her. The man asked who they were. Manji told the man that Cheon Gwang was Ijung's fiancé. The man was shocked to hear this, seeing that Ijung didn't refute, and her cheeks flushed red. The man became furious. He immediately drew his sword to attack his rival. What was most infuriating was that the opponent looked like a common ruffian. This made him completely lose his rationality. Fortunately, Ijung stopped him in time. Only then did he realize how impolite he had been. Ijung told him to apologize to Cheon Gwang, then she left. The boy apologized to Cheon Gwang, saying his name was Kang Pyo. Then he invited the two to a tea house. Through conversation, he learned that Cheon Gwang and Ijung were just friends, and told them that he was a disciple of Ryu. Ryu was a sect founded by one of the 5 kings. Ijung was the master's favorite granddaughter. Cheon Gwang asked Kang Pyo's purpose for coming. Kang Pyo said that the denominator had died last night. He came to tell Ijung. Because the 5 kings were famous, many people came to the funeral. Cheon Gwang and Hanyang also came to eat at the banquet. Cheon Gwang was curious. Hanyang seemed to come only for the food. Hanyang said they just fought together but barely knew each other. Also, that person's personality didn't match his. But he had a group of loyal subordinates. And with a sword in hand, he was indeed strong. During their conversation, one of the 5 king's sons, Won Song-wan, arrived. He thanked the boxing king for attending his father's funeral. Asked if he wanted to pay respects to his father, Hanyang said the food was good. He was just accompanying Cheon Gwang. They thought Cheon Gwang was his disciple. Cheon Gwang said he and Ijung were good friends. When they heard Ijung's name, the two behind showed slight changes in expression. After that, Won Song-wan bid them farewell to attend to other guests. At this time, Ijung was protecting Myung-wol. Myung-wol told her she didn't need to follow. She had heard about Ijung's grandfather's death. Ijung was confused. Myung-wol was starting to care about others' family matters. Seeing this, Myung-wol said no more. All merchant groups were waiting for her arrival. But in reality, only the chairman of the Moksan Fortress Merchant Association came. Although Myung-wol had anticipated this result, they wouldn't give face to the minister. One chairman stated that unless they saw the minister's seal, they wouldn't come. Someone suggested most merchant association chairmen had gone to the funeral. If Myung-wol could gain the host's attention, things might change. In the evening, Kang Pyo saw them off. Cheon Gwang asked why Ijung hadn't come. Kang Pyo heard that Ijung's mother was married after the death of her father's first wife. She wasn't well received by Kang Pyo's 2 masters, who were Ijung's brothers. The only one in the family who loved Ijung was her grandfather. After the war ended, the old master had always stayed by Ijung's side. Cheon Gwang pondered this. The next day, Cheon Gwang and Myung-wol returned to the funeral. They saw many members of the merchant association there. Afterward, they went to meet the current denominator. When they saw the Fist King's disciple assisting Myung-wol, they were unusually polite to Myung-wol's group. So, denominator took them to pay respects to his father. That evening, Ijung was sitting alone in a daze. Cheon Gwang's appearance startled her. Cheon Gwang stepped forward to take her somewhere. Ijung, thinking he was taking her home, wanted to leave. Cheon Gwang told her that her grandfather had been waiting for her. After tomorrow's burial, Ijung would never see her grandfather again. Then, they knocked out the guards. After seeing her grandfather, Ijung recalled childhood moments spent with him. Her grandfather told her that swordsmen couldn't easily show their emotions. That would affect a swordsman's path of justice. But when she saw her grandfather's wounds, she believed he hadn't died from illness at all. Ijung was born into a sword family and was beloved by her grandfather. Her half-brother refused to teach her swordsmanship, believing that as a girl, she wasn't worthy of learning the family's martial arts. But Ijung's nature was never to give up, so she endured much hardship. Whenever this happened, she would seek out her grandfather. Only with her grandfather could she feel at ease. One day, her father arranged a marriage for her. Her 2 brothers thought she could finally do something for the family. But Ijung didn't want to marry. So she went to find her grandfather, but was told that her grandfather was gravely ill and seeing no one. Not even her. From that day on, she never saw her grandfather again. After losing her only support, she left the family. Only upon her grandfather's death did she secretly return, only to discover her grandfather hadn't died from illness. He had clearly died from stab wounds. Just then, someone at the door discovered them. Cheon Gwang told Manji to escape quickly, but Manji already had a sword at his throat. Ijung asked about the cause of her grandfather's death, but her eldest brother ignored Ijung and ordered them captured. Ijung asked again about her grandfather's wounds, but both brothers insisted their grandfather died from illness, and told Ijung and the others to leave quickly. They wouldn't pursue tonight's actions. The next day, Ijung found her family's martial arts uniform. She wanted to uncover the truth about her grandfather's death. As she left, she was coincidentally spotted by Cheon Gwang, but Ijung was stopped at the foot of the mountain. Ajung demanded to see her father to ask about the stab wounds and the true cause of her grandfather's death. All the disciples were shocked to hear this. The second brother told her not to speak nonsense and drew his sword against Ajung. He claimed it was all Ajung's delusion. The old man had clearly died from illness. He would use his strength to drive Ajung away. Kang Pyo watched the two from a distance, not knowing what to do. Their masters were among the peerless youth, the elite 20. Ajung was no match for her brother's strength. As she was considering her options, Cheon Gwang appeared behind her. The opponent told the Fist King's disciple not to interfere in family matters, but Ajung was one of his few friends. He certainly wouldn't ignore the situation. At that moment, Ajung jumped, asking Cheon Gwang to lend her a hand, with Cheon Gwang's boost. After a few moves, Ajung had flown past everyone. Kang Pyo once again questioned the relationship between the two. Jealousy drove him straight toward Cheon Gwang, only to be knocked down by a single strike. Then he looked at the crowd, asked if they wanted to fight him together. Seeing the Fist King's disciple's skill, the second brother knew he couldn't be careless. Meanwhile, Ajung rushed up the mountain, where her eldest brother appeared to block her. He would discipline Ajung properly, like before. The eldest brother saw Ajung using the clan's martial arts again, still as hateful as ever. Meanwhile, the second brother attacked Cheon Gwang. But Cheon Gwang didn't want to fight back, as he didn't want to cause more trouble. Just as he was dodging, he heard several people planning to stop Ajung. Cheon Gwang flashed past them and charged, instantly sending them flying. At the same time, the second brother slashed at Cheon Gwang. Cheon Gwang instinctively countered. The second brother was surprised that someone with Cheon Gwang's skill had no reputation. Cheon Gwang ignored him, only concerned about his clothes. As Cheon Gwang fought and retreated, he arrived beside Ajung. Then, they were caught in the middle of a chaotic fight. Ajung told Cheon Gwang to control his strength. Then, the two unleashed their combined technique. The massive sound drew everyone's attention, including Ajung's father. Ajung's grandfather, Won Gyun, was a disciple of the strongest swordmaster. But at night, he would kill clan members indiscriminately, and he had no memory of what happened. Doctors couldn't diagnose him, only saying it was dementia. He didn't want to become a sword demon controlled by his weapon, so he passed his position to his eldest son. One day, Won Gyun fell seriously ill and asked his eldest son to end his life. From then on, he lived like a prisoner, isolating himself. 5 years later, Won Gyun's condition worsened. Thinking he was still on the battlefield, he fell completely into madness, searching for enemy generals. Even his grandson was injured by him. Won Gyun's sons and the elders heard about this and came to see him. Seeing this, the eldest son had no choice but to act. With a tremendous sound echoing through heaven and earth, he ended his father's life with his own hands. He tearfully apologized to his father. Won Gyun didn't blame him, saying he did the right thing. His only regret was not seeing his granddaughter for so long. And today, Won Gyun's granddaughter Ajung was seeking the cause of her grandfather's death. Her father, seeing this, released his pressure. Instantly covering everyone around, all stopped fighting. Then, he told Ajung everything. They had wanted to keep it secret, but it still caused such a commotion. Meanwhile, Hanyang was watching everything from a distance. So many people came to see Won Gyun off. He envied such a life. They weren't close friends and pursued different paths. He only hoped the other would depart quickly. A few days later, Minister Yunho arrived. She was delayed by state affairs. She stated that because of this incident, word had already spread. The Myung-wol merchant group and Eokian Ryu elders had been comforting the family, minimizing the negative impact. She knew that the Sword King's son, Won Song-wan, wanted to give up his clan position. But now there was an urgent situation. The fortress was under attack. 3 days later, Eokian Ryu led 3,000 disciples. 600 ox carts of supplies headed to the fortress. The Myung-wol merchant group also joined as escorts. This time, they were led by former deputy captain Ban Oh-jang. Cheon Gwang had other ideas. Seeing everyone leaving, Cheon Gwang, seeing Myung-wol wasn't going, wanted to stay too. But Myung-wol told Cheon Gwang to follow orders, and to return quickly and stay safe. At this moment, Hanyang suddenly appeared. He heard Cheon Gwang was going to the battlefield again, wanted to accompany him, feeling uneasy after seeing the Sword King. Besides, he also wanted to see old acquaintances. Meanwhile, the Eokian Ryu elder gathered all merchant groups, bringing Myung-wol along. People were displeased to see her. For profit, Myung-wol had to handle this matter well. At this time, the battlefield was in chaos. Under the enemy general's attack, several groups were gradually losing ground. The wall was about to fall. Seeing this, Won Song-wan personally took action. With one move, he forced back 2 enemies. Then, he instantly appeared behind them, knocking them to the ground. He raised his sword, telling everyone not to give up. Victory would be with them. With his joining, the entire battlefield changed. Allied soldiers' morale soared as they counterattacked. Just then, countless attacks swept across the battlefield. A figure descended from the sky, attacking the position. He recognized the opponent as the Sword King Won Gyun's son. because he was also known as one of the five kings, Gubu. As the two were discussing the Sword King, Hanyang interrupted them. In their youth, they fought enemies together on the battlefield. One known as the Fist King, one known as the Spear God. After a long time, they met again. The Spear God directly attacked the other. Hanyang easily blocked the attack. Gubu was surprised that his opponent's strength hadn't diminished at all. He had never seen Hanyang's ageless technique before, and he still maintained his prime fighting power. Gubu wondered why Hanyang, who had no interest in war, had come here. Hanyang said he came to see old acquaintances. Afterward, the two left the battlefield directly, leaving everyone wondering what happened. That night, in the camp outside the city, they wondered if Gubu would ally with the Fist King. Won Song-won denied their idea. At this time, a messenger reported, Gubu's son Samarak was leading troops from the rear. After the war years ago, his son married into the royal family, all to accumulate his own power. Now, caught between attackers, they faced almost certain death. Meanwhile, in Bukwan City, the minister also received intelligence. She decided to gather the most elite troops. When Gubu's son attacked from both sides, they would raid Gubu's son's city. This important task was given to Juhyang's most valued disciple. They led 1,500 men and left overnight. Reportedly, they were positioning forces behind the supply team to prevent supplies from being captured by enemies. When Samarak arrived with 10,000 troops, they had already set up. Samarak saw this and knew his father's plan had been leaked. But none of that mattered before absolute strength. Everything they did was in vain. Meanwhile, Gubu questioned Hanyang's purpose for coming. It didn't seem as simple as visiting him. Hanyang simply complained about the lack of good food. Gubu finally understood Hanyang's secret to rejuvenation. Constant muscle exercise, then continuous energy replenishment. But this might have other side effects. At this point, Hanyang told him his disciple was in the supply team. Gubu thought it was his former apprentice. Hanyang was imprisoned for 10 years and could still endure without seeking revenge? Maintaining his strength for what? Hanyang had said everything he wanted to say. He wasn't interested in the war. If the other side won, they would continue to dine together. Then Hanyang left. At this time behind the fortress, the two armies had engaged. Subordinates reported that fighting had begun behind Won Song-won. While Gubu was leading troops to the front, Samarak killed enemies first, unstoppable. The brothers knew the enemy's strength, prepared to join forces against him. But they weren't even on the opponent's radar. Samarak mocked the two for focusing on him, completely neglecting their rear. A group appeared from the mountain, heading straight for the supply convoy. The Myung-wol merchant group fought back fiercely, but Cheon Gwang was nowhere to be seen. At this time, Cheon Gwang appeared behind Samarak. The battle at the front gate had also begun. Countless attacks came from a distance. Gubu threw his spear directly onto the battlefield. Seeing this, Won Song-won stepped in to block the attack. He ordered soldiers to raise shields for defense. Though the enemy was strong, attacking from a distance meant the damage wouldn't be too great. Gubu just wanted to pin down the opponent, preventing him from going to the back door. He wanted to leave the achievement to his son. Captain Ban ordered Cheon Gwang to support the front, because if the front failed, there would be no retreat for the rear. When Cheon Gwang rushed toward Samarak, he sensed the opponent's considerable strength, which sparked his interest a bit. Then, 3 people surrounded Samarak. Cheon Gwang dodged the attack and instantly hit the opponent, but it did no damage. Instead, Cheon Gwang was heavily struck down by Samarak's fist. Seeing this, the two brothers quickly came to help, but they were also instantly knocked down by Samarak. At the back of the battlefield, the supply team was working hard to get supplies into the city, but many were intercepted by the enemy. Those that couldn't be seized were burned. The Myung-wol merchant group could only try to get more supplies into the city. On the battlefield, the 3 couldn't harm their opponent at all. After forcing the 3 back, Samarak had lost interest. The 3's strength disappointed him, so after causing a rock slide, he left with his troops. 2 days later, nearly half the supplies were lost. Won Song-won found Cheon Gwang. Cheon Gwang didn't know why he was looking for him. Won Song-won first thanked Captain Ban for his decision at the time, then asked Cheon Gwang about Samarak's strength. Cheon Gwang said the 3 of them could withstand 1 round. But if they continued, all 3 would certainly die. This was why they came to find Cheon Gwang. Their forces and supplies weren't inferior to the enemy's, but the enemy pair's strength was too great. Won Song-won alone couldn't handle it. They could only try to hold on until Yonggu captured the enemy city to relieve them. They hoped Cheon Gwang would speak to the Fist King to see if he could help them in this war. Cheon Gwang said he usually trained with Hanyang, had only seen him fight twice, and only when he was in danger. Cheon Gwang thought Hanyang was training him and wouldn't intervene in this war. Hearing this, the brothers thought about seeking help from neighboring countries. Cheon Gwang asked, why not seek the northern border 12, though now 11? But the 2 ignored Cheon Gwang, finding excuses to leave. Captain Ban told Cheon Gwang, those 11 were scattered across the country and hard to gather. The biggest problem was factional issues. Cheon Gwang didn't understand at all. At this moment, a soldier reported that smoke was rising from surrounding villages, and enemies were approaching in 3 directions. When Songwon's brother told everyone not to panic, villagers had been brought into the city. They just needed to hold this position. As he was commanding, Gubu appeared before him. Fortunately, his brother Songwon intervened in time, blocking the attack. Meanwhile, Gubu's troops searched for people left in the villages. Not all villagers could evacuate. Some must be unable to move. Then subordinates found 3 people in the ruins. On the battlefield, the 2 armies were engaged. But Samarak didn't plan to enter the battle. Opponents too weak to interest him. At this time, Gubu and Songwon had fought several rounds. They continuously exchanged blows on the battlefield, gradually moving away from the center. Gubu said the other was indeed the man who killed his father. At this moment, a person with 2 children appeared behind him. They were thrown off the cliff by a horseman. Songwon turned into a beam of light rushing toward the children. As he caught them, Gubu appeared behind him. He barely blocked 1 strike, but couldn't dodge another sneak attack. The attacker was Gubu's daughter. Gubu said, "Pity, missed opportunity, the stab was too light." Subordinates, seeing their leader wounded, hurried to rescue. Countless arrows flew toward the 2. Seeing this, Songwon took the children back to his troops. His first question was about the battle situation. Subordinates reported that because Daemon was opened, the checkpoint might not hold. Seeing this, Songwon ordered civilians and troops to return to the main city. Thus, Gubu's troops captured the checkpoint. Taking the main city was just a matter of time. Their troops had surrounded the city. Because of the large number of villagers joining, their food became a problem. The morale of the troops was also declining. Hanyang, seeing that there wasn't enough food for himself, went hunting in the mountains and brought back plenty of food. Everyone was confused about how to transport so much food. Cheon Gwang and the deputy commander had already lifted the food. A soldier asked Hanyang why someone with his strength wasn't helping. Hanyang said he had already killed too many people. The next day, Gubu led his troops to attack the city again. Both sides knew this would be the final battle. Gubu didn't rush to attack. Instead, he brought prisoners to the front line and beheaded them. He didn't slaughter the unarmed villagers. His purpose was simple: to further lower the morale of the opposing side, to let the enemy soldiers know that surrendering was their only chance to survive. But Songwon had a countermeasure. He cooked all the meat Hanyang had hunted. As the aroma of the meat slowly rose, it moved the enemy soldiers who hadn't eaten meat for a long time. This standoff continued for quite a while, until sudden news broke this balance. Small county city had fallen, the governor surrendered, and Yongu occupied it. Upon receiving this news, Songwon prepared to take the initiative. Because Yongu was leading the main force to provide support. Seeing the enemy's morale surge, Gubu was puzzled. After learning the news, Samarak finally prepared to enter the battlefield. He wanted to take the city before reinforcements arrived. When he entered from the side, there was nobody there. Songwon's son appeared at this moment, stating that all the villagers had been evacuated. Samarak didn't care, thinking it wouldn't change anything. But when the son said he wanted to introduce someone, the soldiers quickly cleared a path. It was Hanyang standing in the distance. It turned out that Cheon Gwang had distributed the meat to the entire city while Hanyang was sleeping. When Hanyang woke up, he couldn't find his food anywhere, and was furiously angry. Samarak arrived and saw Hanyang. He clearly remembered the previous great battle, when that man had stood against thousands, sweeping across the entire battlefield. Since then, he had wanted to fight Hanyang. Today, he never expected to meet him here. He was so excited he couldn't control himself, instantly attacking Hanyang. Seeing this, Songwon's son ordered troops to block the enemy. The Myung-wol merchant group also joined the battle. By now, the frontal assault had also begun. At this point, Gubu received the news that his son was fighting the Boxing King. Many years ago, Samarak had followed his father to fight the Shungnu. His father had fought bravely, eliminating countless enemies, but one figure had deeply attracted the young boy. That kind of power made the young boy envious. After seeing that person fight, his blood had boiled with excitement. Today, he wanted to properly challenge this opponent, but that person didn't want to pay attention to the young man, because he was angry about losing his meat. Hanyang recognized who he was by his unique eyes. He said he had told the young man's father he didn't want to participate in this battle. But Samarak didn't care about any of that. He charged directly at Hanyang. When his father learned about the situation, he knew if Hanyang joined the battle, they would have a hard time winning the war. He had to break the current balance of the war. He leaped into the air, heading straight for where his son was. Songwon also saw the enemy's intention, but people kept attacking him on the battlefield. He had to deal with these enemy generals first, taking advantage of Gubu's absence to kill more enemies, before going to provide support. As Gubu rushed toward the area, Cheon Gwang noticed he seemed to be charging toward Hanyang. At this time, Samarak was continuously attacking Hanyang. Hanyang had no choice but to punch him, but unexpectedly, the other kept coming after him. This feeling of fighting a worthy opponent excited Samarak. Hanyang didn't expect his opponent to be so crazy. When he punched him away again, Gubu was already attacking from behind. At the same time, Cheon Gwang appeared to stop him, but he was caught, and his movements were restricted. Gubu countered with a spear attack toward Cheon Gwang's face. Fortunately, Hanyang intervened in time. As Samarak attacked Hanyang again, the fight between two people turned into a four-way battle. With a loud noise, the four separated. Hanyang hadn't expected Cheon Gwang to help him. Cheon Gwang slightly regretted coming here. On the other side, Gubu wanted to team up with his son, but Samarak wanted to handle it alone. Gubu was furious, telling him this was a battlefield, not to become a beast that only knew how to fight. Hanyang told Cheon Gwang to pick an opponent he liked. This would be a rare practical training opportunity. Then, the four attacked each other again. On the battlefield, everyone was caught in the melee. Even Won Song-wan was feeling exhausted. Cheon Gwang kept engaging Gubu, but he was covered in wounds. Gubu hadn't expected him to be so difficult to deal with. When he learned Cheon Gwang had only been practicing martial arts for 3 years, he decided to kill him to prevent future trouble. After several moves, he grabbed Cheon Gwang, then pinned him to the ground, ready to finish off this trouble. Just then, Won Song-wan arrived and rescued Cheon Gwang. He had left the battlefield to his subordinates. To turn the tide of this war, he had to defeat Gubu. When the two were about to fight, Hanyang and Samarak appeared, continuously fighting in front of them. When they separated, Hanyang noticed Won Song-wan. Won Song-wan said he wanted to help the boxing king deal with the two, but Hanyang knocked him down with a light punch. He was merely hanging on by sheer will. Hanyang told Cheon Gwang to take Won Song-wan far away from here. He had no choice but to deal with the two again. He would show them what true transcendent power was. Seeing this, Samarak wasn't afraid but delighted. The stronger the enemy, the more satisfying it would be to defeat them. Gubu quickly shouted at his son to stop, but it was too late. With a tremendous sound, Samarak had lost an arm and collapsed. Hanyang slowly walked toward him. Seeing Hanyang wasn't going to stop, Gubu quickly stepped in and took the opportunity to rescue his son. But Hanyang had already appeared behind them. If they made him angry, they should be prepared to die. After sending Gubu flying with one hit, Hanyang pinned Samarak to the ground again. Hanyang wanted to show him what true power was. The force rising to the sky echoed across the battlefield. Hanyang was surprised that his opponent hadn't died yet, but it was over. Just as he was about to punch again, Gubu stepped forward to block the attack. But he paid a heavy price. He had hoped to severely injure Hanyang, but was easily dodged. He returned to his son's side, telling him to leave quickly with the army. He wasn't doing this to save his son, but for the sake of conquering the Ping Kingdom. He was old, but his son was still young. Then he threw Samarak back to his troops. As a king, dying on the battlefield was his best ending. He just never imagined he would die at Hanyang's hands. After saying this, the light faded from his eyes, and a generation's king fell. Samarak ordered his troops to retreat. The large army received the order and completely withdrew. At this point, Yuangu had also arrived. He didn't know exactly what had happened, so he didn't pursue the enemy. Now Hanyang looked at the dead Gubu. His power slowly dissipated. He felt very hungry. Then, smoke filled his entire body. Cheon Gwang clearly felt Hanyang's form had shrunk considerably. Hanyang told the two to leave first. He would find Cheon Gwang after filling his stomach. And so, this battle came to an end. The villagers gradually returned to their homeland. The soldiers suffered over 10,000 casualties. Yuangu said it was his fault for arriving late. Won Song-wan replied that wasn't the case. They had all done their best. Afterwards, he went to see Cheon Gwang, thanking him for his help this time. Cheon Gwang worried if he would become like Hanyang. That wasn't simply fighting. It was more like one-sided torture. On the other side, with Ioke and Ryu's help, Myung-wol finally met the merchant groups. Everyone knew Myung-wol's reputation. The people here had all sought Myung-wol for drinks. They had also heard about the Chancellor's ideas. But this matter would be difficult to implement on schedule. It would be a great challenge for whoever took charge. But Myung-wol didn't mind. After all, to survive in this warring states period, exceptions had to be made. The Daemon Merchant Group expressed agreement with Myung-wol's ideas, but they believed someone more capable should represent everyone. They thought they were better suited for the task. At this moment, someone suggested they have a competition. They would ask an elder from Aoki and Ryu to set the challenge, and the winner would be in charge of this project. After the meeting, the Daemon Merchant Group decided to teach Myung-wol a lesson. How could a newcomer girl show such disrespect to him? When Myung-wol's group arrived outside Moksan Fortress, several people were already waiting on the distant mountain. Just as they were about to attack, a blue light flashed, and everyone was thrown in different directions. It was Captain Kwan appearing from the shadows. Seeing this, the remaining people charged at him. But before him, none could withstand even one move. The leader could only step forward. Captain Kwan knew he was the captain of Daemon's guards. His skill was indeed not at the level of common soldiers, but he was only slightly better than them. Not enough to fight against him. Afterwards, he returned to Chongyongjong without saying anything. But Ah-young noticed something. Captain Kwan thought there was blood on his body. Ah-young said it was the killing intent that hadn't dissipated. Captain Kwan didn't want to alarm Myung-wol. After all, Myung-wol needed to focus on the competition. Early the next morning, the Daemon merchant group learned that all their men had died. They never expected there would be such experts in Myung-wol's merchant group, but he couldn't bear this humiliation. He planned to hire the top assassin to resolve this matter. But someone told him that the assassin had died 2 years ago. The next day, in a valley outside Bukwan City, various merchant groups gathered here. There used to be a water utility factory here that diverted water to nearby villages. But when the rainy season came the following year, the water channel capacity was completely exceeded. But it wasn't practical for the 5 nearby villages to all relocate. The challenge was to solve this problem. They could use their own methods, but couldn't force the villagers with violence. Eokyun Ryu would supervise the entire process. Myung-wol knew this was a challenge set by Eokyun Ryu for their reputation. She could only first go to the village to see the actual situation. At this time, the Wonhu merchant group invited Myung-wol to stay at their place. Because it was difficult to find suitable accommodation in the village, Myung-wol directly accepted their invitation. Afterwards, several people went to check the water channel. Although a dam had been built, it didn't help much. When they tried to ask the villagers, they were ignored and walked away. The water channel benefited the city people, but affected those outside the city. After everyone finished inspecting, they returned to the temporary residence. The Wonhu merchant group surprisingly proposed to collaborate with Myung-wol's merchant group. Myung-wol didn't understand why they suddenly wanted to cooperate. Outside, Captain Kwan at Manji River also didn't understand. Originally, the Wonhu merchant group and Daemon merchant group had always been close. Suddenly, this situation occurred. Manji decided to investigate. So he secretly infiltrated their mansion. Just when he thought it was easy, a pair of eyes was watching him from behind. Meanwhile, Myung-wol kept thinking about why the Wonhu merchant group would cooperate with her, though that man was an adopted son. His ability was the strongest among all merchant groups, and she felt like she had seen him somewhere before. The next day, Myung-wol and her companions arrived at the village, but the villagers were unwilling to leave this place because their ancestors were all buried here. And if they left, they would have no other means of survival. Starving to death or drowning made little difference to them. Just as Myung-wol was about to investigate the surrounding area further, the Wonhu merchant group informed them that the Daemon merchant group had already taken action. They had gathered most of the villagers, provided tools and materials, and paid them wages, allowing both men and women to help build a dam. Seeing this, the villagers eagerly signed up. Everyone knew this would require a lot of money. But the Daemon merchant group's financial power was not to be underestimated. Even if it was a losing business, they would spare no expense to win. Daemon wanted to thoroughly trample Myung-wol's confidence, to show her what a real merchant group was capable of. Myung-wol asked the Wonhu merchant group if they still wanted to cooperate, but they expressed confidence in Myung-wol's abilities, and said they looked forward to seeing her approach. Myung-wol felt they weren't simply captivated by her beauty, but she still needed to properly investigate their intentions. Meanwhile, Manji had been captured by the night monkey Bon. Surprisingly, Bon didn't punish him, but was curious about him. He even showed a terrifying smile. Upon seeing Manji, Bon was reminded of his younger self. Back then, due to poverty, he stole from wealthy people everywhere. Without realizing it, he had achieved his current status. Manji explained that he didn't know the Wonhu merchant group belonged to him. Through their conversation, Bon guessed that Manji was from the group competing with his merchant group. Now he wasn't sure how to handle the situation. A few days later, the Daemon merchant group learned that all workers had stopped working, because the villagers' children had gone missing one after another. Everyone had put down their work to search for the children. After hearing this, Daemon immediately thought that Myung-wol was behind it. On the other side, Myung-wol also heard this news. After delegating the matter to others, she prepared to go check on the situation. At this time, all the villagers were searching for their children. About 20 children from the entire village had disappeared, with no trace of them in the surrounding areas. Daemon found Myung-wol, and without a word, immediately struck her. She didn't understand why Daemon would be so ill-mannered as to hit a woman. Daemon said that the missing children were Myung-wol's method to obstruct him. For days, Bon had been eating and drinking. Manji waited until Bon was drunk, and then managed to slip away. He had gathered considerable intelligence to report back to Myung-wol. Just as he was about to return, a distant sound attracted his attention. A group of people in black were holding the village children captive, and Manji witnessed it all. From their conversation, he learned that these children had been kidnapped, and it was the Wonhu merchant group that had kidnapped them. It appeared they were secretly selling war slaves. As Manji was contemplating this, someone had already approached the tree below, delivering a punch directly toward Manji's position. As the smoke cleared, the tree had been reduced to dust. Before everyone could react to what had happened, the captain told them to search the surroundings for any eavesdroppers. Manji threw a smoke bomb in an instant and escaped, but his injuries prevented him from leaving quickly. When he struggled to get up, he could already hear the pursuers behind him. After continuous pursuit, the distance between them gradually narrowed. When Manji ran out of the forest, a sea of flowers appeared before him. In such an exposed place, he had no way to escape. Meanwhile, the pursuers had surrounded him. He could only use another smoke bomb. But with nowhere to hide, he was still captured. Seeing Manji's attire, they knew he had come prepared. Just as they were about to take him alive, A green light flashed by, instantly taking down one person. Before they could see who it was, 2 more were killed. They finally spotted the enemy in front of them. The newcomer recognized from their attire that they were not good people. Moreover, the person they had captured was their friend. The 3 prepared to use Manji as a hostage to save themselves. But Ah-jung instantly appeared before them. She had heard their words clearly. Manji was curious about why Ah-jung was here. Ah-jung only said she was on a mission. Elsewhere, the Wonhu merchant group stepped in to calm both sides. They proposed pausing the competition to search for the children first, but the Daemon merchant group had already determined that Myung-wol was responsible for the children's disappearance. Besides Myung-wol, no one had reason to do such a thing. The Wonhu merchant group hoped everyone would calm down and hear Myung-wol's side, and asked Myung-wol to provide evidence that she wasn't responsible. After all, everyone was suspicious of her now. Myung-wol was perplexed as to why she needed to provide proof. If they suspected her, they should be the ones presenting evidence for their suspicion. Though everyone was speechless, Daemon still insisted it was Myung-wol's doing. Myung-wol sensed trouble. All the merchant group members had isolated her. This atmosphere had affected even the villagers. She suspected this was all the Wonhu merchant group's scheme, gradually undermining her relationship with everyone. But these were just her suspicions, and she couldn't prove them. In distant lands, there was a crop only fed to livestock. Its value wasn't recognized, and merchants hadn't introduced it. People there called this crop patata, which we know as potato. Myung-wol planned to use this to solve the villagers' food problem, as this crop could survive even during floods. If cooked properly, patata could also become delicious food. But people wondered, since this was food for livestock, could humans really eat it? Myung-wol explained that in foreign countries, these were important foods during battle. So, she hoped the merchant groups would lead villagers to cultivate them in the mountains. Although it wouldn't have immediate effects like the Daemon merchant group's water channel project. Solving the people's hunger problem was also good. Preventing disasters couldn't solve the root problem here. But solving their survival methods might be an approach. As the two were talking, they noticed figures in the distance. It was Ah-jung carrying Manji back. After returning to the merchant group, Manji told Myung-wol the situation, and knelt to apologize for acting on his own. Myung-wol hadn't expected that it was indeed the Wonhu merchant group kidnapping children. Slave trading was quite profitable, and it seemed they had never stopped. But this kind of trade was forbidden in Bukwan City. Myung-wol's appearance had conveniently made her their scapegoat. That's why they had approached Myung-wol's merchant group, to frame her. Ah-jung asked if they should now confront them openly. Myung-wol confirmed they definitely would, but if not handled properly, it might backfire. The final result could be her complete exclusion. Ah-jung didn't want Myung-wol to suffer unjust accusations. Even if they couldn't do much for now, they needed to rescue the children. Myung-wol was surprised by Ah-jung's attitude. Since she wasn't part of the merchant group, Ah-jung said she was acting on someone else's behalf, and she believed Myung-wol also wanted to resolve this matter. Inside a cave, all the children had been brought here. At this time, the Wonhu merchant group also appeared. The captain told him that someone had discovered their operation. His staff extended in length, and he struck one of the children directly. The children's crying made him very impatient. He hadn't heard such sounds for a long time. Then, the captain continued to report that all pursuers had been eliminated. They hadn't had such a big haul for a long time. To be safe, they needed to relocate all the children. Soon after Manji and Ah-jung arrived at the cave entrance, Manji clearly saw those people enter here, but it was too quiet inside, which Ah-jung found strange. When the two entered, they didn't see anyone. At this moment, a figure emerged from the shadows behind them. He had been waiting for some time. Sure enough, it was Myung-wol's merchant group interfering with their plans. Ah-jung told Manji to find the children, but they were already surrounded. Elsewhere, Myung-wol led people to the Wonhu merchant group headquarters. They had likely already moved the children, so she hoped Captain Kwon would search around the merchant group, while Myung-wol would enter the headquarters to confirm if the kidnapping was really related to Ban. In the cave, Ah-jung had already begun fighting with the opponent. The opponent's strength was enormous. All her sword techniques were deflected directly, but in terms of agility, she still had a slight advantage. Manji, however, could only keep running away. Gradually, he was surrounded in the middle. They were the heads of 2 merchant groups and competitors. But today they believed Myung-wol's merchant group's claims. Myung-wol was surprised at how smoothly it went. But Daemon didn't say much. Afterwards, they appeared at the entrance of the cave where the children were kidnapped. Subordinates indicated it was dangerous and asked the master to stay away, but he felt hiding would make Myung-wol mock him. In everything, he must do better than that woman. He instructed his men to rescue the children before Myung-wol did. All of this was because Madame Sui had intervened. Before this, she had found Daemon and told him he had misunderstood Myung-wol. Myung-wol didn't intend to be enemies with all merchant groups. With proper guidance, she could achieve great things in chaotic times. He was fixated on immediate benefits, but should look further ahead. After all, they had been friends for 10 years. Myung-wol was like a sister to Daemon. Afterwards, Su-hui left the Daemun merchant group. She hoped Ah-jung could help investigate the Wonhu merchant group. Ah-jung said she would investigate. After all, Cheon Gwang and Myung-wol had helped her. Inside the cave now, the two groups were engaged in a chaotic battle. The Daemun merchant group searched everywhere for traces of the children. Ah-jung told them the children were no longer here. They had been moved to an unknown location. During the fierce battle, a subordinate called to the captain. They were outnumbered by the Daemun merchant group and should retreat temporarily. The captain couldn't believe the Daemun merchant group would interfere here. He could only order his men to retreat first. Meanwhile, at the Wonhu merchant group, Captain Kwan, while investigating around, also discovered some strange traces. In the inner courtyard, Myung-wol still hadn't seen Bon. They told her the master had left on urgent business. Myung-wol repeatedly asked where he had gone. She feared he had gone to the cave to provide support. At this moment, a signal flare shot into the sky from afar. No one knew what was happening. It was Manji signaling to Myung-wol. Seeing this, Myung-wol no longer concealed her intentions. She drew an arrow and aimed it directly at the person's neck. The signal just now indicated the children had been moved. If they wanted to live, they should quickly take her to see their master. With no choice, they led Myung-wol forward. Subsequently, everyone was led to a spacious room. They didn't see the master there, only a fierce gaze watching them. Everyone felt a flash of light before their eyes, and all fell to the ground. Fortunately, Manji appeared and pushed Myung-wol away. From the darkness, a figure slowly emerged. Seeing this, Myung-wol quickly picked up her weapon. The person said, "You even brought weapons for an illegal intrusion?" A servant nearby explained that Myung-wol had falsely accused them of kidnapping children. Myung-wol knew that person must be Bon. Bon said, since they had caused such a commotion, they should be prepared to die. His hands glowed with light. Countless red beams shot towards Myung-wol. At this moment, a long spear blocked all the attacks. It was Captain Kwan who appeared just in time. Although he blocked the attack, he was injured. Seeing Captain Kwan could withstand his attack, Bon guessed he wasn't an ordinary guard. Then he launched an even stronger attack to see how the other would respond. Captain Kwan knew he couldn't fully protect Myung-wol from such an attack, so he chose to push Myung-wol away, and then took all the damage himself. He told Myung-wol there were fresh carriage tracks outside the courtyard. If she quickly joined the Daemon merchant group, they could still catch up. He didn't have the ability to hold back one of the Northern Frontier 12 for long. Myung-wol thought Bon probably didn't know the truth, since he had just returned from the battlefield. Although she wanted to resolve this through dialogue, the children's lives were more urgent. She could only tell Captain Kwan not to risk his life, but Bon had no intention of letting Myung-wol leave. A red beam shot toward her. Thanks to Captain Kwan blocking it, she was able to escape. Ban admired his opponent's strength. On the battlefield, those who could block his attacks were few. Captain Kwan said he didn't want to die here and wanted to talk, although Bon didn't know his purpose. He would subdue them all and then investigate. If they meant to harm his son, he wouldn't spare their lives. Seeing he couldn't reason with him, Captain Kwan planned to hold on a bit longer and then flee. But the opponent's attacks were no longer restrained. Their power so great it destroyed the entire building. Even the distant Daemon merchant group felt their force. At this time, Myung-wol had arrived on horseback. She told Daemon the children had been moved west. She would go after them first and hoped Daemon would send support. Watching Myung-wol leave, Daemon didn't know what had happened, but still sent people to follow and assist her. Elsewhere, deep in the mountains, the Wonhu merchant group went to regroup. At this moment, a shadow appeared in the trees above their heads. It was Ah-jung who had pursued them here. The captain told everyone to go meet with his brother first. He would catch up after dealing with this. He knew the opponent was faster than him, and must quickly resolve this with his own strength. Ah-jung was also well aware of the enemy's strengths and weaknesses, using the debris created by the opponent as cover. She directly stabbed his arm. The captain was puzzled about the existence of such a female swordsman. In all this time, he had never heard of someone like her. At this moment, Myung-wol passed by the two. Ah-jung told Myung-wol the enemy was just ahead, but it was too dangerous for Myung-wol to go alone. Myung-wol said the Daemon merchant group would arrive soon. She hoped Ah-jung could support her quickly. Afterwards, Myung-wol arrived at a hillside. Not far away, a group of people were galloping. It was the Wonhu merchant group with the kidnapped children. As if sensing something, Wonhu also looked back at the distant Myung-wol. Seeing this, Myung-wol hesitated no longer and continued the pursuit on horseback. Their first meeting was because both were captured as slaves. Myung-wol, in order to escape, set fire to that hellish place. But many were recaptured and lost their lives. At that time, young Wonhu, to survive, desperately earned the master's favor. Following the plan, he found Bon, who was selling slaves at that time. Bon liked him very much and always called him son. Young Wonhu suggested his father establish a merchant association and do legitimate business. His father trusted his son and handed over the management of the association to him. Since then, he used the merchant group as a cover, secretly trafficking slaves. He had intended to frame Myung-wol but didn't expect to be cornered by her. But he wouldn't give up so easily. He ordered his men to resist with all their might. On the cliff, two mysterious figures watched all this. They were ordered to pick up goods, but didn't expect that person to cause such a commotion. In the Wonhu merchant group, Captain Kwon was still trying to delay, but Bon's attacks made it increasingly difficult for him to withstand. Bon also clearly understood the other's intentions. To stop him, Bon could go to such lengths, and Captain Kwon had already reached his limit. Delaying until now should be enough. If he didn't escape from here, he might die today. As he feinted a move, planning to turn and flee, but he still underestimated Bon's strength. After blocking the opponent's attack, Kwon was forced back to his original position. At this point, Bon's curiosity about Captain Kwon had disappeared. He decided not to spare him and prepared to finish him off. Captain Kwon felt the other's killing intent. He could only use all his strength to meet this attack. Just as tensions were rising, Daemun entered with his people. Bon recognized him and asked why he came so late. Daemun said he had important matters to tell Lord Bon. Captain Kwon breathed a sigh of relief knowing he was saved. Afterwards, Daemun told Bon the whole story. Bon still couldn't believe it was true. How could his child do such a thing? He ordered everyone not to leave the building. If he found out Daemun was lying, everyone would die here. Meanwhile, Myung-wol told Wonhu he had no escape. Wonhu said he didn't recognize Myung-wol at first glance, but they had met long ago. Back then, they ate together and slept together. After that day, both had changed a lot. His master would occasionally mention this. His master also missed Myung-wol. Would Myung-wol like to go see the master with him? After speaking, Wonhu charged directly at Myung-wol. All his plans had been ruined by Myung-wol. If his master knew about these matters, neither of them would have a good outcome. Myung-wol said she was no longer the little girl from back then. He should know that Daemun called her a ruthless woman. At this time, Ajung's stamina was nearly exhausted. The opponent had also reached his limit. They knew clearly that the next move would determine the outcome. But a flash of light passed by, directly killing Ajung's opponent. Then, the light reached the battlefield, eliminating the merchant group guards because he saw the kidnapped children. He appeared behind Wonhu. He wanted to hear why his son would do such things. Today's result was what his father least wanted to see, although his son wanted to explain something. The facts were already before his eyes. Bon ordered people to take his son to the authorities. If he delivered him personally, he feared he might make a mistake. At this time, someone came to find Myung-wol. Elder Eokhyun Ryu asked her to return quickly. The heavy rain was too much, causing floods to rise again. The constructed riverbanks had all been washed away. Daemun lamented that all the money he spent was gone in an instant. Myung-wol told the villagers to seek shelter at the Wonhu merchant group's base. A month later, Elder Eokhyun-ryu gathered all the major merchant groups. Because of Daemun's dam, people had time to escape. Myung-wol introduced foreign crops, solving the disaster victims' food problem. So, today he would announce the appointment for the Road Construction Authority. The head of the Ludian merchant group would be the main person in charge. Because his coordination had brought the entire situation under control, Daemun would be in charge of the construction site. Myung-wol would be responsible for material supplies. Thus, the competition ended, and the disaster victims began a new life. In Myung-wol's merchant group, Myung-wol received a letter. Cheon Gwang and others had helped the fortress handle affairs and were preparing to return. At the same time, Captain Kwon also received a letter. Myung-wol was curious about who sent Captain Kwon the letter. Captain Kwon said he had received instructions. In an instant, he approached Myung-wol and knocked her unconscious. He had followed Myung-wol for 3 years, and she was indeed a good employer. But now, he needed to return to his primary duty. Captain Kwon thought his actions would go unnoticed, but Ijung appeared and blocked his path. Ijung had always suspected Captain Kwon had some purpose, otherwise why would he stay with the merchant group? But she hadn't expected Kwon would kidnap Myung-wol. She had always wanted to test martial skills with Captain Kwon. Today, she finally had a reasonable opportunity. Captain Kwon said the outcome of this match would be devastating. The next day, a man from the Wonhu merchant group came to tell Bon the interrogation results. His son must have had a mastermind behind him. Hearing this, Bon wanted to resign from his position, but was directly refused by the man. He was an elite force from the Kwon family of the northern frontier of Ping country. He knew Bon had once nearly starved to death for the people. He believed this matter had nothing to do with Bon. Moreover, the Northern Frontier 12 were already missing one person. This would greatly impact the war situation of the entire Ping country. If he wanted to resign, he might as well die on the battlefield. In Myung-wol's merchant group, Cheon Gwang returned to learn his sister was missing. He was furious, and could only wait for Ijung to wake up. This feeling of helplessness made him rush out the door. He could only vent his anger on the trees on the mountain. At this time, Suhui finally found Cheon Gwang, telling him that Ijung had woken up and was waiting for Cheon Gwang to return. Ijung apologized to Cheon Gwang for failing to save Myung-wol, and said that the person who kidnapped Myung-wol had left a letter. Cheon Gwang hurriedly took it to check, but he forgot that he couldn't read. Ijung said, the person had said 2 sentences to Cheon Gwang. "Come back, you ruthless boy." Hearing this, Cheon Gwang knew who had taken Myung-wol.